What is happening out there, rotoscouts baseball fans? Welcome to a Tuesday afternoon show, gang. We are here to talk about tonight's main slate, which is now knocked down to 9 games if you haven't been paying attention. Meanwhile, Jazz Chisholm Jr., at least it's not a double play. Yankees game just starting up in Detroit. I just watched Tarek Skubal strike out Aaron Judge, 2 on, no outs. And now we got Jazzy to ground out, runners advance. We'll see what happens. A little bit torn. Obviously, I want my Yankees to win, but I do have Skubal on the mound in the Dynasty League this week. I also have Aaron Judge in my lineup, so, we'll take our points where we get them. But what's going on, everybody? Hopefully your day's going pretty well. Hopefully the week's off to a good start. Pretty successful night last night as far as projections went. Missed the home run pick on Luke Raley. He, I think, went 0 for. Somebody downline. I think Ryan Bliss hit a home run in that game, further down the lineup. Missed the home run pick, but I felt like a lot of other stuff came through yesterday. It was fairly on point. We had some good wins in the Discord. People posted screenshots. We had Tall Tale more than doubled up his $25 on an entry. Not bad. I'll take that every day. And then our guy Logan Grew has had some really good success early in the season. Took down $1,300 on $54 worth of entry fees, 4 entries. That looks like a FanDuel lineup. It was Hunter Green with a Padres stack and what looks like an Orioles stack and a Tawa one-off. Interesting lineup. 203-point lineup. Not bad. Congrats to Logan. Congrats to everybody else out there who took something down. When you guys win, send in screenshots. I'd love to see it. So keep those things rolling. But let's talk really good slate today. We've got top-end pitching to work with in a lot of spots. We've got a few targets like Kyle Hendricks, who's on the screen right now, pushing a monster total toward the Rays, who are looking very, very good here. Going to be popular, I would think. We've got some haves and some have-nots as far as the pitching board goes. We've got some interesting spots to talk about as far as offense. Looking forward to this one. As I was saying, this was originally a 10-game slate. The Marlins at Mets game got moved from the 7 o'clock hour to the 4 o'clock hour. It is no longer available on either slate. DraftKings, I think, just took it off completely, and it's not sitting there. Last I looked, FanDuel had properly rescheduled the start time of that game on their schedule on the app and on the site to 4 p.m., and now, for reasons that escape me, they've added a note, which is good, to say, don't play players from this game. But they moved the start time from 4, when it actually is, which is before the slate, and obviously not on it, to 10. Which could very easily confuse people and make them think that that game is on that slate if they miss the note. So be aware, Marlins, Mets, off the slate completely on both sides. Enough said. Let's pull up the board here. So we've got a Coors Field game in play, which you'll note is creating the biggest total on the board for the Milwaukee Brewers down here at 5.31 implied runs. We'll get to that one. There's one reasonable pitcher maybe to consider on the Milwaukee side, and then just targets, bats on both sides of that. But starting up at the top, Angels and Rays. As mentioned, definitely a target spot for some Rays bats. And the Angels actually look a little bit better in projections and in the home run model going up against Shane Baz, who had a fantastic first start a week ago. We'll see what it looks like going forward. Not a lot of experience on that. Some very good hitters in that Angels lineup. As stated at the beginning of the year, this is a lineup that I think is better than maybe public perception so far is, and today is kind of bearing that out projections-wise. Made Mike Trout the home run pick of the day just because it's not crazy to take Mike Trout these days. It's not like, oh, come on. It's not like he's Ohtani or Judge. I mean, he is, but people forget. Rays side of that one looking very, very good. 4.83 implied total, one of the highest on the board. The Phillies, the Braves, 2 excellent pitchers. Zach Wheeler, Chris Sale. Low total for those 2 teams at just 7 runs. Pretty even up on the board in Vegas, 3.5 runs apiece. Good luck with bats. You can draw bats against those pitchers. If I was doing it, I would probably take Phillies bats against Chris Sale. We'll talk it through, but not a great spot for bats. Interesting spot for pitching. Twins and the Royals, another decent pitching duo. It's Pablo Lopez. It's Cole Ragans. Ragans had a very good start when we were looking at him the last time around for a cheap price. Hopefully we'll get to him again today because 369 implied total for the Twins with some strikeouts there. 387 implied total on the Royals side. Pushes some upside toward Pablo. Interesting spot in Chicago. Nowhere near the weather disaster that it was yesterday. It's going to be like a 40-degree night. The wind is blowing across the field. The Cubs are pulling a reasonable total, 4.5 runs, right where you'd expect them. The Rangers, though, going up against Jameson Taillon, who is a very average pitcher, I'm kind of surprised that the Rangers are down at just 3.5 runs, 3 2/3. That spot is also standing out a little bit despite the lower run total. I think we can get some Rangers, and they rated out pretty well despite being, ranked poorly as far as that Vegas total goes. So that's an interesting spot to me. I think that's a very gettable pitcher. Hopefully we get him a little lower owned. Brewers, again, obvious bats. Freddie Peralta on the mound for them, though. We can at least consider Freddie. He's going to project out decently, but there's so many options on this slate that I don't think you need to do it outside of it is a contrarian dart to throw with an excellent pitcher going up against a mid kind of lineup with plenty of strikeouts there. It's just the course field of it working against him. You can see 4.29 implied total for the Rockies. A high total in general for this board, but not a high course total. So Freddie is getting a little credit there. Baltimore and the Diamondbacks, both sides of this one looking good for offense. It tied at 4.80 implied runs, 9.5 total, 104 on each side. Either side of that one for bats. No question about it. Astros and the Mariners, low totals here on both sides. 3.46 implied total for the Astros, 3.62 implied total for the Mariners. Luis Castillo, the good one on the mound for the Mariners. And it's Framber Valdez, who you guys know we really like on this show. So definitely going to mind some pitching out of Seattle. And, as we've talked about a bunch of times already, we're going to be targeting that Mariners team in their home ballpark basically all season or until further notice. Reds at the Giants, 7.5 run total. Their Giants pulling more of it. I think we can look at all sides of that game. Probably a little bit of a four cornersy game. And then the last game of the night, I kind of like the looks of Dylan Cease going up against the Athletics. 4.06 or 4.07 implied total for the Athletics, though. Does give them a little bit of offense. We saw Tyler Soderstrom just mashing to start the year and another 2 home runs last night. I've already complained enough about the Dynasty League pick that was stolen from me. Damn you, Lou Palante. Padres side of that one going up against Jeffrey Springs, who had one really good one and one pretty bad one. It's drawn out for the Padres at 4.5 runs. So we'll see what that offense looks like. But definitely a good day for pitching. So told you I like that spot. Cease rating out at the top of the board, but Framber not far behind at all. Basically the same projection and a pretty big price difference on DraftKings. Site to site, it's pretty wild. Framber's more expensive at 10.3 on FanDuel than Cease at 10,000. On DraftKings, he's 8,800 to Cease's 10.3. So that is a wild price difference. I love Framber on DraftKings. You can use him as a cheap SP1 and pair him with, I don't know. I don't think it would be crazy to go to Landon Roop for clean innings in San Francisco, going up against that kind of free swinging lineup that might push some strikeouts in his direction. There are options to get really cheap at pitcher today. Or you could go like, him being relatively cheap and then somebody from the middle, like a Pablo at 8,000, a Freddie Peralta at Coors, if you want to tangle with that at just 78. I kind of like the upside there. That's actually a really interesting pairing. Getting those two for 16.6 total. That's kind of interesting. Lodolo's usable. Baz is definitely usable despite what I said about the Angels looking kind of interesting. There are options down the board. And then there's just excellence up at the top. Any one of those guys, perfectly fine in any given lineup. I doubt you can find your way to 2 of those guys with a reasonable enough stack to really bother with it. But if you can, so be it. Go for it. But getting Cole Ragans attached to that group at just 81 on DraftKings is another big upside piece. He's way better than an $8,100 pitcher. He should be the same price as Chris Sale. He should be the same price as Framber at least. So you're getting big discount there. That's probably, I glanced past him, but that's probably your top pairing. If you can afford 16.9, that's dynamite. Castillo, I just don't love the matchup against the Astros, which we've talked about plenty of times this season. Pablo's on the board here, though. It's a really deep pitching board. These two, you go to either one of them, it's just challenging matchups, kind of obviously. I think Wheeler has the better of it in terms of some strikeouts available there, but Sale gets the slightly marginally better projection out of the model just because he is a bigger strikeout pitcher. But that's essentially a tie. You can play the ownership and upside game all you want there. If you have a favorite, play him. If one of the salaries works better for you, play it. No downside in either of those pitchers despite tough opponents. This is a really interesting one with Shane Batts. Very differently priced on FanDuel at 96. Probably not going to be crazy popular over there, but will draw a little bit of ownership for some strikeout upside for sure. But since he comps with like these guys, price-wise, I don't know how crazy popular he gets. Over here, I think he's going to pick up a little bit more ownership. But maybe he won't run away with that either because he is more expensive than that whole stretch of guys. Definitely has the upside to pay off either of these prices, though. Baz is on the board, but we are going to look at Angels bats. I don't love Morton against Arizona. Landon Roop, as I mentioned, I do think is playable. I do think Springs is playable. I just am shaky on what the strikeout upside looks like against the Pods here. Merrill Kelly don't like it all against the Orioles. He projects out fine for the cheap 7,000 on DraftKings. You can use it, but Tyon at 62, kind of okay for that price. And like I said, he's basically a dead average pitcher. So he can snap off a good start every now and again. He had a good one in his second game. But I kind of prefer Texas bats there, especially if people aren't really going to it. But 62 does make things work on this board. I would probably rather have this than that. I'll take the $500 discount to face the probably softer of those two lineups with the guy who's arguably the better pitcher. So I would probably dip down if I'm looking to go bargain hunting on DK. Pat Corbin, Kyle Hendricks, Kyle Freeland for me, basically off the board. I don't think you mind those pitchers. Patrick Corbin's been a target for 5 years and was basically out of baseball till he got a late shot here. Hendricks is a target for Rays bats, and Freeland is pitching in Coors Field and is just not that good. Hit the like button as we get started. Andy took Brandon Lau for the dinger today. That's a great pick, Andy. He is my pick from the Rays. You can see he's over the magic number at 10.48. He wasn't the pick of the day. I figured he'd be ludicrously popular. I'll use Brandon Lau a lot this season as the pick of the day, I promise. I really like that bat, especially in this ballpark, the way it's going to play all summer. But I didn't go to him today because I figured they'd be popular with that pretty big total. But yeah, love the pick. Absolutely love it. He's got 3 on this season, 250 ISO so far. Been mashing. Look at the premium contact so far in the tiny sample of batted ball events. But has always done that. 12.4% barrels, 44.7% hard hits last year, 10-7, 47-5 the year before. Strikeouts are always going to be there, but he can definitely draw walks. He can get involved in other ways. He's off to a hot start with the bat in terms of the slash line, too. 306, 342, 556. He's created runs 57% better than average. Only cost 4,600 at second base on DraftKings to boot. 3,200 on FanDuel. The Rays, in addition to being one of the highest total teams of the day and one of the highest projected teams of the day and one of the better home run marks of the day overall, are downright cheap. Nobody above 4,600 on DraftKings at all is very inexpensive. Going up against Kyle Hendricks, I really don't know how we arrived at a lot of these prices if you're considering just the day-to-day of it. Same deal on FanDuel. 3,200 is your highest price. These Rays are going to be very, very popular. But you definitely want them. I mean, you're as at least a mixer. Maybe you use them as your secondary stack, as a 3-man. Work some of these guys in. You can definitely mine some one-offs from here. There's good bats down lineup, too. It's not a crazy shallow lineup. And they can mix and match a bunch of different guys in here, obviously. It is the Rays. I just wanted to check if it was confirmed off chance. It's still very early. Marlins, Mets, nope. Nothing. So if you're building that Rays stack out, I definitely want to start with Yandy Diaz at first base. I think he's perfectly appropriate to play at first. Ignore the 40 plate appearances, the cold start that he's had so far. What's nice is in his limited batted ball events so far, the barrels, the hard hits are right in line with where they're supposed to be. He hasn't really struck out that much. He hasn't drawn his walks yet, but he's a stellar option for on base with good power. 341 on base last year with a 120 WRC+, so he's out there creating runs, making situations for the guys who follow. He's got an excellent hit tool. and he's constantly on base. 2 years ago, 410 on base with 22 home runs on the board as well. That was a monster season out of him. 192 ISO, created runs 64% better than average. Just a fixture at the top of the lineup for this team. So very cheap at $4,000, $2,700 for the numbers he's capable of putting up against a soft-tossing, zero strikeout pitcher like Kyle Hendricks. Absolutely. There's just good contact available there. Leadoff spot. So you just, again, plate appearances with contact. That's really a big part of the equation. Junior Caminero, 4,100 is cheap for that bat. 2,800 on FanDuel, cheap for that bat. Hasn't done much over his 31 plate appearances. Don't worry about it. It's going to arrive. Was mashing the ball in spring. 177 plate appearances last year. He hit 6 home runs, 176 ISO, 105 WRC plus. Not a bad cup of coffee. A little more than a cup of coffee. Not a bad afternoon tea. Jonathan Aranda hits the ball very hard. 16.5% barrels, 46.4% hard hits last year, 5.3 and 43.9 in a larger sample, I believe, the year before. Out to a good start with the bat this season. 1 home run on the board, 333, 393, 667 in numbers that don't really matter, but making good contact when he squared the ball. When he's connected, he squared the ball up. 16.7% barrels, 61.1% hard hits across what is probably 12 batted ball events. Danny Jansen, a catcher that we kind of know, hasn't done anything at all so far this season. If he's in the lineup, you can expect the occasional home run. He hit 9 last year in 324 plate appearances, had 17 2 years ago in 301 plate appearances, solid 246 ISO that season, and created a run 16% better than average. Whether we get back to that level remains to be seen. But it is a at least somewhat capable bat in a hitter-friendly ballpark going up against a incredibly targetable pitcher. And he might slip, especially on FanDuel for 23. He might kind of fall by the wayside on that site. At 32, where you need catchers and people are going to be going to this lineup, I would expect he's going to be fairly popular if he's in the lineup on DraftKings. Cameron Misner, pretty solid 25 plate appearances so far. His created runs 74% better than average. We have no real sample going back in time there. Wish I could figure out a way to get minor league stats in here. I guess I could just add them. Nah. I'll think that through. Last season in AAA, 519 plate appearances, 17 homers, 30 stolen bases. Year before, 21 homers, 21 stolen bases in 519 plate appearances. Same number. That was also at AAA. He's 25, 26, or 27 now. Little bit behind schedule, but there is some talent there. Chris Morel, I've talked about already this season, swings the bat really hard, really fast, really frequently. The rate at which he makes contact has always been the problem. There are whiffs there. There are a lot of strikeouts there. But when Chris Morel makes contact, the ball can fly. So if you're going to the Rays, my hope is that we get Chris Morel kind of not sneaky because it's no secret that he can hit the ball very hard. But if he's down lineup like this, hitting 7th, maybe he draws a little bit less popularity than the guys up here. And that's a differentiator in stacks with a very, very good upside bat against a pitcher, again, who is not that difficult to make contact with. So I like the upside for Chris Morel in this spot. Last season, 21 home runs and 611 plate appearances with a 150 ISO. It was a disaster. 196, 288, 346, created runs 18% worse than average. The year before, 26 home runs in just 429 plate appearances. Had a 260 ISO, created runs 19% better than average. Made a little bit more frequent contact that season. Was a little bit better. 3,700, 2,500 playing 3 positions on FanDuel, including second base. Now, I want Brandon Lau at second base most of the time, but I do have the util spot to work with, obviously, on FanDuel if that mattered, if I needed a good third base outfield guy from another team. So you can still work him in that way. But I just love the positional flex on a guy like Morel when he's that cheap. Lot of lineup combinations to make here. Jake Magnum, over 24 plate appearances, holding down a 435, 458, 522, 187 WRC plus. He's stolen 4 bags to create some fantasy points. That's kind of what he does. But as discussed, this is a 29-year-old quad A player. This is not really a big hot up-and-comer. Just happened to have created a couple good fantasy scores early. That said, capable enough if he's in the lineup today, particularly if he moves up. He's hit higher in the lineup than 8th. So keep an eye on that, but not a super high priority guy. You can see it there, and there's very little power there. Taylor Walls, mix and match piece. A little bit of speed. On the Angels side, as mentioned, drawing some power. Mr. Trout, 12.94. Not only is the home run pick of the day, another reason I made him the home run pick of the day was he was the top of the board, offset by more than a full point over Corey Seager, who again will get to Texas. So model's a little bit defiant of Vegas here. Angels drawing a 3.77. It's not a nothing total, but we obviously want to target teams that are at least over 4 when we're talking about the early part of the season, 4.5 and 5+ later, or Coors games that obviously rocket to 5. But I can't stop thinking that this Angels lineup is just better than people kind of expect them to be. We've got some players off to a decent start. Logan O'Hoppe in the middle of the lineup, 5 home runs on the board already. A 5.17 ISO is ridiculous. 30 plate appearances. He's created runs 140% better than average. Taylor Ward at the top of the lineup has been a problem so far this year, but he can hit for power. He's medium strikeout, but he can draw walks and get on base and set the table. Luis Rengifo is an interesting enough hitter if he's getting on base, can steal bases. He drove the ball effectively last season despite not making great contact. He pushed his home run total up a little bit. Oh, no, I'm mistaken about that. Excuse me, it fell. I was thinking of 2 years ago. 16 2 years ago. 6 last season in 304 plate appearances. My mistake. Sorry, guys. Still early in the year. Still trying to remember what happened when. But Rengifo remains a quality bat for a fair price. Second base, third base for $4,000 on DraftKings, $2,800 on FanDuel with 3 position eligibility. You can move them all around the board. I don't mind game stacks in this game too because you've got a few key bats in the outfield on the Angels side, and you've got a few key bats in the infield on the Rays side. With outside of Cameron Misner and Jake Magnum in this projected version, you've got flexibility to the infield at worst on everybody. So these two teams fit together if you want to chase game stacks in one of the most hitter-friendly parks in the league. Mike Trout, 5,400. Not a bad price to find Mike Trout. 4,000, perfectly fair on FanDuel. 3 home runs on the board. The slash line leaves something to be desired so far, but I'm confident it will come around. All we need is health. He stole a base. I question whether or not he should be doing that at this point. We kind of just want him healthy. Nuggets fire Mike Malone with 5 games left in the season. That's surprising. Maybe not. Has it been rumored? I haven't really been paying attention. I'm just watching the numbers in the NBA at this point. That is the only thing I'm paying attention to. Can't wait till the playoffs start. Going to be a fun run. Jorge Soler, a lot of power upside. 2 home runs on the board at 219 ISO. We just want Jorge Soler to rip 30 home runs this season. That's what we're chasing with that bat. 10 plus in the home run model. 2,900 in the outfield. 4,300 in the outfield. Great piece to click alongside Mike Trout. Trout gets on, he knocks him in, or Trout just delivers the big knock that we're looking for. Soler is a good bat with upside. Didn't have a great year last year. The power dipped significantly as we've looked at, but there's still monster pop lurking there. Nolan Schanuel down the lineup is not a bad option, 37-28. Not the ideal first base bat, but there's definitely talent there. Last season, 13 home runs and 607 plate appearances, got on at a 343 clip. I kind of prefer Schanuel up in this territory, but I think they're looking base hits and speed type with Rengifo up here, and he gets on base as well. But Schanuel's on base plays up really, really solidly, and it can help drive the bottom of the lineup. And there's some interesting options down there. Kyron Paris is off to a good start with 2 home runs and 4 stolen bases on the board. It's kind of in his skill set. 2,700 at second base and outfield on DraftKings. A lot of positional flex for a cheap price. Same price FanDuel, adding shortstop to that. And then Joe Adell, who I've talked about, who everything I said about Chris Morel also applies to Joe Adell. Adell getting into that post-hype prospect territory. But we've looked at this a couple times already this season. I'll continue showing it off until he puts any numbers at all up for this season. But last year, kind of a sneaky 20 home runs, 15 stolen bases across 451 plate appearances. Give him another 50 plate appearances, and that's probably a 2020 season, or 100 plate appearances. I'm sure it's a 2020 season. That is underappreciated. This is terrible. That's terrible. The counting stats, though, were there last season for Adell for the amount that he played. We just need the full time, and we need the talent to come through, but the talent's undeniable. He hits the ball extremely hard when he makes contact. Swings the bat in that group of hitters that are among the fastest overall swings and the fastest the best fast swing rate. So the most frequency of fast swings. Really like that bet. And then Tim Anderson's just kind of dead at the bottom of the lineup. He does have a few runs scored over 20 plate appearances. Last year was a disaster, over 241. The year before was a meltdown. 1 home run, 13 stolen bases. This used to be a 2020 type player, but he is gone, and he is not coming back. Didn't really talk Shane Baz. So 1 start on the board for Baz. Went 6. As mentioned, had a great outing. 10 strikeouts. He did give up 7 hits, which is noteworthy in that game. That was against Pittsburgh. So he was allowing some runners on base. He faced 23 hitters, though, over that 6 innings. And then that was back on the first. So we're talking about a full week. Not exactly like a regular 5-day rotation out. We'll see what it looks like. Over 14 starts, 79 and a third last season, 21.6% Ks, 3.06 ERA with a 4.39 xFIP. Allowed a little bit of hard contact on a fly ball trajectory, which plays up the home run upside. Didn't allow too many home runs, but there's definitely some happenstance here. Because, again, with this kind of contact, that kind of exit velo, and that kind of a launch angle, you're just getting a little bit lucky to keep home runs down, and playing in this ballpark might not work so well. Stuff is fantastic. He is a very talented pitcher. He can induce swinging strikes. In that first game, 13.5% swinging strike rate. You can see Stuff Plus held up pretty well. He lost a few points in the first game, but nothing to worry about, really. But look at those hard hit and exit velo numbers. Again, that's a very small sample of batted ball events, but he did, again, give up 7 hits, and half of those were very well struck. That is a big exit velo number at 95.5. So there's very good contact available here. I think we can go to Baz. I think there are plenty of strikeouts on the board for him. So far, this projected lineup for the Angels, 24.2%. Last year, same lineup, 24.1%. Year before, 25.6%. So there are definitely Ks. He could go out, strike out 8 of these guys over 6 innings, 10 of these guys over 6 innings. Pitching cleanly is going to be the key. Not giving up that power that we're seeing in the middle of the lineup here is going to be the key. Yeah, thanks, Ricky. I appreciate the heads up. It's more about like working it into the board here and then like creating the pull so it knows whether to go to minors, majors, etc. So I'd have to create additional nested if-error statements where they already are. Actually, that one's not too bad. Some of these get crazy absurd. They go like 6 rows down. But appreciate the heads up there. Definitely a good thought. They're on Fangraphs. It's just a matter of like, you know, again, importing them into here. I've got the stats boards up over here for what I pull. Some pitcher and hitter data. The pitchers are the yellow ones. The hitters are the blue ones. So we're not going to Kyle Hendricks, or at least good luck if you are. I don't think it's there even at 6,600. I just wouldn't do it. Not a good reason to do it. Just to, you know, somebody might say, oh, he's going to be low owned. You can get contrarian that way. Doesn't matter. Not if there's virtually no upside. He projects for fewer than 10 DraftKings points, and I don't know that I like his chances to get to 10. You're talking about a guy with a 15.3% strikeout rate last season, a 5.92 ERA with a 4.59 xFIP underneath it, sub 8% swinging strike rate. The fact that this is below 4%, I guess, is, you know, you could point to 2.25 the year before. He's not exactly a gas can as far as giving up home runs all the time, but there's plenty of home runs and power available against him. And it's more a matter of just the contact, the frequency of contact that he's going to allow. So fire up Rays bats. For me, this goes Rays bats, Angels bats, and then Shane Baz, and no Kyle Hendricks. I would understand anybody who wants to rank Shane Baz above the Angels in that equation, though. But I think the Angels bats are on the board in a bigger way than maybe people are talking about. It looked like they were going to be very low owned. I did not click Phillies. This one's the opposite situation. I think we're looking strongly at pitching here. 2 very good lineups, or one very good lineup and one lineup that has dramatically underperformed for the last season plus a couple of weeks. But I think the Braves will eventually come around. These guys are too good to... I know I said it a lot of last year. It's just too much talent here to continue. They're getting Sean Murphy back, but today's probably not the day that they're going to break out in a big way. They do have a home run on the board for each of the first handful of hitters, 1 through 5. but pretty ugly numbers overall so far for the Braves. Zach Wheeler, on the other hand, has been pretty tremendous. 1.38 ERA with a 1.95 xFIP underneath it so far. 40.9% Ks to 4.5% walks over his first 2 starts. What I love to see is the depth out of the gate. 6 innings, 20 hitters, gave up 1 earned run on a solo home run, struck out 8, walked 2 against Washington in his debut, and then went 7, faced 24 hitters. That's a Zach Wheeler kind of start. Allowed 3 hits, 1 earned run, also on a solo homer, struck out 10, walked none against Colorado. Obviously, kind of a pushover offense. Different than the Braves, but there are plenty of strikeouts here. 23-5 for this lineup last year. So far, the guys who have numbers are off to a 29.5% strikeout rate start. Definitely some Ks on the board for Wheeler, who's more than capable of finding them. He's not the top of the board. As mentioned, Chris Sale projects slightly better with his 32.1 last year, his 29.4 the year before. Wheeler's a little bit behind that track, 28.5 last year, 26.9 the year before. What he makes up for it, where he makes it up, is just in 1, depth, and 2, just being completely excellent at limiting runs. 2.57 ERA with a 3.30 xFIP last year, 0.96 WHIP. If you're not putting guys on base, it's very difficult to create rallies. That's why you see a lot of solo home runs, or not a lot, but when runs are scored against Wheeler, they come on solo home runs sometimes. 33.2% hard hits last year, 86.7 miles an hour of exit velo allowed. He's excellent at limiting premium contact, keeping barrels down. He does allow fly balls. You know, he's not a worm burner type pitcher, but he does not allow a lot of premium contact, does not let guys square him up. Stuff Plus loves him. Every reason in the world to fire away with Zach Wheeler. With Chris Sale, it's more about him than the matchup. I have a healthier respect, I think, for the Phillies here as a high-danger team to throw a pitcher against. But Chris Sale's had 2 of those already. Sale faced the Padres and the Dodgers both on the road over his first 2 starts. He went 5 in both games, faced 22 Padres, struck out 7, gave up 3 earned on 6 hits. Wasn't a great start, wasn't a meltdown either. 5 innings, 21 hitters faced, 3 earned runs, gave up a home run, struck out 5, walked 0 against the Dodgers. Again, not a bad start, not a good start. Just one of those ones that falls in the middle. But we know what the upside with Chris Sale looks like. There are strikeouts in this Phillies lineup. Some of their best hitters strike out at a high clip, but they also draw walks. They also destroy the ball when they make contact with it. I'm talking about Kyle Schwarber. But you can definitely get Kyle Schwarber for 4 strikeouts in a game from time to time, or 3. So I still like the upside for Sale, and if he's going to be under-owned because the Phillies are good, I definitely think you can plug him into lineups at 93 on DraftKings, 99 on FanDuel. I'd be happy to have him. I don't know that I'd go out of my way to get him with the depth that's available on this board. Again, I love that spot despite the higher price. I'm a big fan of Wheeler here. I think you can do a lot of work through this territory. So there are options, and then I love Cease up at the top of the board. So there are options to not use Chris Sale, but he's not a must-avoid by any means. There is major upside. He projects as one of the top pitchers on the slate. You can see he's got the Phillies clipped down to a 3.5 implied total, 3.5 on both sides of this one. So mostly about pitching, but if we're looking bats, I do think it's an opportunity to maybe get contrarian with very good hitters. But the other part of that equation falls a little bit short. It's, can you get contrarian with good hitters while facing a gettable pitcher? And neither of these guys really falls into the bucket of gettable pitchers. But if you're doing it, you're drawing Trey Turner and Bryce Harper off the top of the Phillies lineup, and then Kyle Schwarber is probably your third man in pretty clearly, and you just pay up and get those guys at the low ownership because that's the opportunity of it. So get those 3 into your lineup if you're stacking Phillies. Schwarb's got 4 home runs on the board already, looking pretty great. 382 ISO, 181 WRC plus to start. Mashes the ball, strikes out, draws walks. That's what he does. That's 3 true outcomes. Bryce Harper is a fantastic hitter across the board. 278, 350, 417 to start his season. Hasn't hit for much power yet. 1 home run on the board, but just a 139 ISO. Something to watch. Harper's power was out the last 2 months of last season. Basically after somebody acquired him in their dynasty league to make a title run. Didn't go well. I think he hit me 1 home run. Trey Turner's just excellent for the hit tool. A little bit of medium home run, 5.05 in the home run model. Against Sale is not nothing. 3 stolen bases on the board. We're really looking at him for setting the table, creating runs, creating situations, stealing bases, and accruing fantasy points that way. But he is a guy who typically will need to get on base a couple of times and then need some help from his friends. I love Alec Bohm as a 3-hitter here. 4,500, 3,000 is a great price. Not a great start over 36 plate appearances, but had an excellent season last year. 280, 332, 448. 115 WRC plus, who's creating runs 15% better than average. Very solid line drive hitter with some upside for additional power this season. 15 home runs on the board last year. Has gotten off to a good start as far as driving the ball. 10% barrels, 56.7% hard hits in his tiny sample of batted ball events. Nick Castellanos hit a big home run the other day on the day that Alex Ovechkin broke Wayne Gretzky's record because he needs big news events to do so. 4,700, 3,000. Definitely a playable piece. 343 on base to start the season, a 132 WRC plus. Castellanos is good, not great. He's okay. He's very playable. This is getting up there in price when you can get Real Muto, who's essentially a similar hitter at 4,000. You can get Max Kepler, but that wouldn't be ideal if he's in the lineup at all lefty-lefty. And then these are 2 lower-end players. But the idea of that trade-off, or this trade-off, to me, tells me that Castellanos price is a little high on DK. And you can see it on FanDuel at 3,000. A little bit cheaper. But a very playable part. Real Muto, where you need catchers, 4,000 definitely is still a very quality bat-on-ball catcher, 11.1% barrels and 44.4% hard hits. Very similar to last year and the year before's numbers so far. I expect that'll continue on through the season. We'll probably finish somewhere in the 15 to 18 home run range with Real Muto. Very playable. And then Sosa and Rojas at the bottom of the lineup, mix and match pieces. But if you're dipping down to the 8-9 spot against Chris Sale, it's probably stretching things. Again, if you take Phillies against Sale, you want to do it with the good bats. That's you're getting them at low advantage, low ownership is your advantage. On the Braves side, you can see moderate power suppression coming out of Wheeler. Again, you can get Wheeler for a home run, but it's not all that frequent. But you're getting 6s from the obvious guys, Ozuna, Olsen, Riley, their main power core. That's not completely nothing. Those would be 3 guys I would absolutely want to include in my lineup if I'm taking Braves against Zach Wheeler. Those 3 guys are all pretty cheap for their talents, 4,400, 4,500, and 4,200 on DraftKings. FanDuel still got them a little bit up there. Those 33s are higher than the DraftKings prices, and then the 37 on Ozuna is definitely higher than the DraftKings price. Each guy has a home run on the board. Ozuna and Olsen have created runs in a positive sense so far this season. They're the only 2 in this projected lineup to do so far this season. But we just know this is a more talented team than this. Michael Harris is in a full season, probably 25-25 plus type guy. Definitely a positive run creator. Definitely fits at the top of the lineup. Ozzy Albies is one of the best hitting second basemen in baseball when everything's going well. He missed a lot of time, had a down season last year. Off to a bad start so far over 38 plate appearances, but we're not going to ding him too much for that. 4,200 just to get Ozzy Albies at second base. Against any other pitcher, I would be crazy excited about that spot. Against Zach Wheeler, I'm just like, you probably still don't want it. It's very cheap, though. Being able to roster the top 5 just from this Braves lineup, like this, in so many other situations, that would be something we'd be salivating over to get that collection of hitters at 4,200 apiece. So again, if you're going to the Braves, don't roster Nick Allen, Brian De La Cruz, and then like 2 of these guys. Roster all 5 of those guys, or 4 of those guys and like Sean Murphy. Use the key bats cheap if you're going to draw down against Zach Wheeler, because it's not a good spot otherwise. Murph, no numbers this season. Last year, down year in 261 plate appearances, just 10 home runs. Year before, 21 homers, 251, 365, 478, 227 ISO. This is the real version of these Braves. I don't know where they've been. It can't all just be because Ronald Acuna's out. Jared Kelenic, 22-25, does have a home run on the board. That said, pretty dicey. I still do like the bat in the long term. I like the contact, but I just don't think we're throwing that dart against Zach Wheeler all that frequently. If you're building like 20 Brave stacks for some reason, sure, you include him a few times, but not a player to go out of your way for. Brian De La Cruz does have a little bit of capability with the bat, but again, against Wheeler from the 8 spot, getting pretty thin, and then Nick Allen's just not worthwhile. I would rank it, despite the way that Sale is slightly higher projected, I would actually go Wheeler, then Sale, but they're very, very close. Both very playable. But as mentioned, this is a little bit more threatening of a lineup right now. There are probably more Ks available on this side, but he's the better overall strikeout pitcher. It all is just a big wash. And then between the bats, I would probably take Phillies over Braves bats if I had to. But really, neither of these stacks is all that on the board for me. Bunch of people here watching. Hit the like button. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Check out rotoscouts.com. Access to all of the projections for every baseball main slate, plus the individual home run mark for every player on the slate, plus the stack rankings, power index, home run picks, plus NBA and NHL, every single main slate through the playoffs. Access to all of it under $1 a day. The cheapest you're going to find out there, least expensive, for the highest quality you can possibly get. We got a lot of winners in baseball so far. Had a bunch of winners through basketball. Basketball fortunately winding down. Big slate today, though. I got to get to that. If you're looking for those projections, NHL and NBA will be up a little after this show. Going to jump out of here at like 3 at the latest, I think. Plenty of time to do those. But 2 big slates for those. They were 2 small slates last night. Twins, Pablo Lopez, Royals, Cole Ragans, another good pitching duel. And you're getting these guys in like the mid-price territory. 370 implied total on the Twins side, 388 implied total for the Royals. Both pitchers projecting out well, but Ragans projecting out a little bit better. I think he's the better strikeout pitcher right now. I think he's the more reliable upside guy, and he's also got the better strikeout matchup on the other side. So I think we're looking a little bit more Ragans. I love that $8,100 price, as mentioned in the initial pitching look. Definitely a pitcher I'm going to have some of tonight. 9,300 on FanDuel is well worth it. 29.5% Ks over his first 2. You can see Stuff Plus is holding up very nicely above average, actually slightly improved over last year. The first start went 5, gave up 3, earned on 5 hits, walked 2, struck out just 3 against the Guardians. That was a disappointing start because of the upside that we're talking about in that Guardians lineup for strikeouts this year. But then followed that at Milwaukee on a day we definitely, I remember talking about him and looking at him. Gave up 1 earned run on a solo homer, struck out 10 Brewers, walked 2 over 5 innings, faced 22 hitters. The one thing maybe with Ragans is like, what does the actual depth look like? But in the third start of the year, we got to expect him to go 6 if things are going well. And I expect things to be going well here. So I really like the upside, especially at that DraftKings price. That's fantastic. Pablo, couple of rough ones. Second start, he did go 7. He gave up just 1 earned on a solo homer. He only struck out 5. He walked 1. It's all right. Not a great DFS start, but the innings got him there. He did get the win. He got the quality start. First game, gave up 2 earned, but 4 runs total on 8 hits. Struck out just 3, walked none. One home run allowed. I don't know if it was a solo homer. Gave up 8 hits. So a lot of guys on base against. Hasn't really found the strikeout stuff. Stuff Plus a little bit below average. The contact hasn't been bad that he's allowed in the small sample so far. This is still a good pitcher. Last year, 4.08 ERA, 3.36 xFIP underneath it is definitely the correct number, the number that we want to be focusing on here. We ignore the 4+. Truth is somewhere in the middle. 25.6% Ks against a 5.3% walk rate is excellent, but it's a little bit of a dip from where he was at the year before. He lost about 2 percentage points of swinging strike rate. Don't know if they actually come back. So far this season, we're even lower than that. But give him a little bit of time. I expect he warms up. The problem is, I don't love it against the Royals here. Low strikeout bunch. Last season, this projected lineup, 18.3% strikeouts. The year before, 20%. So far this year, 21.5%. There are gettable guys for Ks in this lineup, but by and large, this is a low strikeout, very high quality, very high contact Royals lineup. I don't know that we really want to tangle with it too much. I think Lopez is very playable, especially at 8,000 on DraftKings. But I don't know that he's high priority in this spot. I think I would treat him that way. If you have 150 lineups and you've got him 8-10%, fine. If you got 150 lineups and you got him 25%, if you've got 3 lineups and he's in all 3 of them, I would probably revisit that. I think bats are playable in this one. I would lean Royals with the higher implied total at 388. Jonathan India, we've talked about quite a bit. Still 409 on base is exactly what we want out of Jonathan India. I cannot stop talking about how good an acquisition that was for this team. Bobby Witt, 5,900, 4,200 is a star, 10 plus in the home run model today. Has one on the board this season. He's stolen 3 bags. He's creating runs just like he should. I expect another monster season out of Bobby Witt. Last year, 32 homers, 31 steals, a 256 ISO, 168 WRC plus. Fire away. Everybody on the Royals is cheap, except for Bobby Witt, obviously. But take the top 5 off the Royals, compare it to the one we were just looking at. 4,500 apiece for India, Witt, Pasquantino, Sal Perez, and Mike Massey. That's perfectly playable against Pablo Lopez. That is very, very affordable. On the FanDuel slate, top 4, if you want to go that route, 3,300 apiece. Not quite as cheap. I would say that DraftKings discount is a little bit deeper, but easily playable as a 4-man. You could also work in Michael Massey and save a little bit off of 2 of those guys. But Witt is absolutely the keystone to this. You want him in most of your Royal stacks. Skipping him does differentiate a Royal stack immediately, but it also greatly reduces the probable output of that stack. Vinny Pasquantino is an excellent bat. Puts tons of bat on ball so far this year, doing exactly Vinny Pasquantino kind of things. Look how close all those rates are to one another just across time. Barreling the ball a little bit more, which is what we've been calling for Vinny. So far, the hard hits aren't there, but again, this is a sample of like 12 batted ball events. Doesn't really matter, but we want those barrels up. 1 home run on the board so far this year at 212 ISO. That is a good left-handed power bat if you can figure out how to elevate the ball somewhat more. Sal Perez, excellent option at catcher as long as he's got that eligibility. 4,400, you can just keep going there. 1 home run on the board this year has been diminished a little bit as time is catching up with him, but still an excellent power bat and somebody that you can definitely take some pokes at Pablo Lopez with. Massey's a quality lefty bat on ball type. Low strikeout, low walk rate, so there's a lot of contact there. Decent, but not good hard hit rates, like decidedly average hard hit and barrel rates. But frequency of contact, capable enough lefty bat for a very cheap price at a throwaway second base. You can definitely roster some Michael Massey if you're stacking this team up. What he's not is like a go-to individual play. He's not a one-off. He's not a priority in like a 3-man. He's probably not one of 2 guys. Hunter Renfroe, still maybe some lurking pop, but I think we need to see it before we really start going there. Didn't really have a great last couple seasons. MJ Melendez, I believe in the lefty power there. 45% hard hits with 8.3% barrels last year. Better numbers for barrels and hard hits the year before. No consistency to speak of whatsoever. And all he does is hit the ball hard. Doesn't even really put up great home run totals or ISOs for it. But there's a bat there. There's an any given slate dart there at worst. 6.42 in the home run model shouldn't really be ignored. Michael Garcia is a good multi-category contributor. He's got 2 home runs and a stolen base on the board already this season, a 273 ISO over 35 plate appearances. He's hitting the ball very, very hard, which is nice to see. The barrels are even more important to see out of him. That is a very interesting player. I talked about him to start this season. As long as we're getting regular plate appearances, there's a lot of talent there. Was bad at getting on base last year, still managed to steal 37 bases. Only hit 7 home runs, wasn't very good at driving the ball. Year before in 515 plate appearances, though, look at this slash line. 272, 323, 358. The slug isn't great, but the on base, the average, if we're just looking for hits, we're looking for contact, and we're looking for situations, not bad. That's a contributor. He stole 23 bases, and if we're making better quality of contact, and he gets anywhere near this ability to make contact, last year was just a disaster in terms of the average and the on base. It just completely went away. But if we're getting a little bit of BABIP on our side with this player on top of more premium contact, this is a really interesting bat. 4,600 third base and outfield eligible, 3,000 third base and second base eligible. Even more interesting on FanDuel since you can plug him in at second. Between the 2 options, I would probably rather have Michael Garcia than Michael Massey. If I'm looking at second base on FanDuel, despite the slightly higher price and despite the lower in the lineup spot, I think Garcia gives you the higher ceiling between those 2 players, even though the home run model doesn't exactly bear that out. On the Twins side, Byron Buxton, if he's leading off at 4,500, 3,400, definitely an interesting bat. Remains a star caliber talent. Last season, 13.2% barrels, 48.1% hard hits. There are plenty of strikeouts there. He's targetable for Cole Ragans as far as get him 2 or 3 times. But it might be Cole Ragans gets him twice, and then he hits the ball very, very hard against Cole Ragans once. 18 homers last year, still carried a 245 ISO, still created runs 42% better than average. That's what I mean when I say this guy is still a star as long as he's on the field and healthy. And I don't think DFS really treats him as such. 4,500 is very cheap on DraftKings. 34, FanDuel's actually got it more right. By the way, kudos to FanDuel. They finally added a price multiplier for their showdown slates. MVP now costs 1.5 times as much. Carlos Correa, plenty of bat on ball there. High quality contact, 9.1% barrels, 44.5% hard hits last year. Ignore these 39 plate appearances. That bat will come around in a hurry. If you're stacking Twins against Cole Ragans, which I don't recommend, definitely want those two right-handed bats at the top of the lineup. And then it's a big crapshoot down the rest of the way. Ryan Jeffers is a decent catcher option for just 39. He does have plenty of power in that bat. Hasn't really flashed it so far this season, but at least a 44.4% hard hit rate in the small sample. Last year, 8.3% barrels, but the hard hits went away. The year before, we had both. Comes and goes as far as the power. It's a dart throw at best, and I don't like it against Cole Ragans. Ty France, not really considering that much. Line drive hitter who hasn't really been hitting line drives the last season plus. Jose Miranda is the better version of that. He's off to a pretty weak 29 plate appearances, but we're not focusing on that. He's got a home run on the board. He has driven the ball somewhat effectively. He's not going to strike out at a 34.5% clip all season. He's been a 15% strikeout rate guy the last 2 seasons. I think we're going back to that. So if you're looking for just quality of contact, cheap bat on ball, then I would include Jose Miranda in a twin stack if I'm building one. So it's probably 1, 2, 3, 5 on DraftKings, and then pick your poison if you want a fifth man. On FanDuel, I think it would be 1, 2, 3, 5. Mickey Gasper, not really seeing much out of him so far over his 12 plate appearances. We'll see what happens there. 2,400, 2,100 with catcher eligibility on FanDuel. That doesn't matter at all. Second base and first base on DraftKings. You can plug them in if you're building a twin stack, but we're getting into the super low priority territory. Willie Castro, Harrison Bader, Christian Vasquez. These are just mix and match quality players most days. Castro's the most interesting out of that group, especially with the positional flex for cheap, but I don't think you're mining the bottom of the Twins lineup for much quality today. Cole Ragans. Royals bats, especially with how cheap they are. Ragans, Royals bats, Pablo, and then and only then Twins bats at the very bottom. All right, the corpse of Patrick Corbin pushing a 4.45 implied total toward the Cubbies. Again, it's a much better night at Wrigley tonight in terms of the weather, the hitting conditions, and everything, but it's not great. Oops. Colin Sutherland, 40 minutes late. Welcome, everybody who's here. People have been coming and going. That's cool. We can watch later on. Yeah, no ownership projections right now, 3-run. Just the numbers. Baseball ownership projections, kind of just straight line it. It's, to me, not all that critical. For basketball, for football, I think it's quite a bit more important. Still not something I've really cracked as far as a good way to project it outside of just guesswork. A lot of places just kind of aggregate one another. So you've got a big, across the industry, snake eating its own tail effect. This site's waiting for that site to update, who's waiting for that site to update, who's waiting for that site to update, because they're all averaging one another's projections and then updating their own. So it gets really messy. I haven't found a good way outside of just having a database from the last 5 years worth of this quality, that rate at that price equals typically on this slate size that much ownership. I'm not sure how they do it with just straightforward algorithms. So something I've never really cracked. If I ever do, I'll put it up there. But it's not something I want to compromise on. It's not something I'm going to aggregate. I think that's half-assed. I also think it's kind of stealing. So I just wouldn't do that. And I'm not going to put something up there that I'm not confident in. So that's the reason there's no ownership. I know you were already happy with just there's no ownership, but that's why. So anyway, this game, the corpse of Patrick Corbin is definitely a target for me. We've talked about this Cubs lineup a lot already this season. They've delivered a lot for us already this season. We're seeing Kyle Tucker in the heart of the lineup at an 11.24 in the home run model as a very obvious guy to go to. I think they're going to get popular, though. Like, it's no secret that Patrick Corbin is a big-time target for DFS. Has been for years now. Used to be a good pitcher. It just all went away 4 or so years ago. Last season, he did make 32 starts. He made 32 starts each of the last 2, 31 each of the 2 before that. He's out there throwing the ball, but the strikeout rates have been in decline. It bounced back slightly last year, but we're talking about just from 15.7 in 2023 to 18.2% last year. Has maintained okay walk rates, 6, 7, 8% over the last few seasons. But where we've just attacked him is for home runs. This is in the context of home runs per 9 on the board, the career stats board here. 129 last year, 165 the year before, 159 the year before that, 194 the year before that. That is a target for DFS. In our terms, that was a 3.27% home run rate last year, which is respectable. That actually wasn't completely terrible, but you can see where the stuff plus is. 5.62 ERA, but a 4.14 xFIP underneath it. He did pitch better than the back of the baseball card stats might suggest, but the 1.50 whip is unsustainable. A lot of batting average on balls in play against because he's low strikeout now. A lot of high quality. Look how many hard hits. Look at the exit velo. So he got a little bit lucky here. 4.18 home run rate the year before, 3.79 the year before that with a 6.31 ERA. This is a super targetable lefty. You do not worry about lefty-lefty with Kyle Tucker. Full stop. It takes essentially nothing away from him, even or especially against a lefty like this. Ian Happ at 47.34. Absolutely fire away. Even if it's just for correlated scoring, he's excellent at getting on base. Against a pitcher that's going to allow contact, he's going to drive the ball a couple of times. He's got upside for a home run, 8.74 in the model. Not the greatest start over 65 plate appearances. 1 home run, 1 stolen base, only an 88 WRC plus at 323 on base. Ian Happ is quite a bit better than that. You can see that in the hard hits, the barrels from last season. Seiya Suzuki is off to a great start. 4 home runs on the board. 269 ISO, 149 WRC plus, mashing the ball when he makes contact with it. He's been high strikeout so far. He was fairly high strikeout last year, but he draws walks. He's going to be getting on base. 365 so far. Creator runs 49% better than average. Justin Turner at this point is just kind of a mix and match piece. It'll come and go. 3,100, 2,700. At least he's not expensive. But more often than not, I'm probably skipping Turner at first base for a better first base option from another team and going to Dansby Swanson with my next click. Maybe going to Matt Shaw with a click after that. Pete Crow Armstrong, 4 stolen bases on the season so far, a 56 WRC plus. Been a little bit problematic with the bat, as highlighted, but he's in the lineup every single day because he's an elite outfielder. Nico Horner, out of the lineup last night, was replaced by John Birdie, who I think, if memory serves, had a pretty good game. But they're essentially the same guy. We're talking about like hit tool and stolen bases and otherwise need help from their friends. They're moderately playable in the middle infield at cheap prices if you're going to this team a bunch of times, but in no way are those guys appealing one-offs. So whichever one of them it is, it's not really a go-to spot. Matt Shaw, interesting young player, 2,600 third base, 4,000 at third base. Probably a little bit more playable on FanDuel with the slightly cheaper price. Home run on the board so far this season. Just an interesting go-forward bat. And then Carson Kelly hit for the cycle the other day. 389, 538, 889 over 26 plate appearances. Pair of home runs on the board. He's not an uninteresting catcher bat, but it's a very uninteresting spot in the lineup. As a differentiation piece, it's fine, but it's not a high priority catcher. I do think if he moves up to, say, 6 in the lineup, he gets very, very interesting and probably a whole hell of a lot more popular. And then there's the Rangers. 365 implied total. Doesn't really rate out well in terms of that the Vegas board. If you look at the top stacks tool, I added that Vegas column for a reason, so you can gauge where like I've ranked something, where the projections have it, where the home run models got it, and then you can gauge where Vegas has it. So this is one that's going to look a little funny if you look at my ranking and then you look over at the Vegas column. I think this is a better lineup than that. For one, it's essentially the same collection of guys that won the World Series 2 years ago. They had a very down year last year. Marcus Semien kind of started to wither. Down to 23 home runs, 8 stolen bases, just a 154 ISO, 99 WRC plus last year. Did make 718 plate appearances. He was out there every day. 753 the year before. 29 home runs, 14 steals, 348 on base, a 201 ISO. That's Marcus Semien. I don't think that guy's completely gone, but we're probably going to be diminished from this. But I think we probably land somewhere between these two seasons. It's a hyper-playable second baseman off the top of the lineup against Jameson Taillon. At worst, Semion's going to be a good source of bat on ball. 14.6% strikeout rate exactly the last two seasons. That's not going to just double year over year, I promise you. So you're getting high-quality bat on ball for 4,400, 3,200 with home run upside, 8.19 in the home run model. Look at all those 8s, 9s, and 10s. 3 guys in the double digits. A guy at 9.5 in Adolis Garcia, who averaged 30 and a half home runs the last 5 years. Wyatt Langford at 8. Marcus Semien at 8. That's a really interesting stack if nobody's going there. And look how cheap they are. Top 5 in this lineup. 4,500 a man. Give me Jock Peterson against a bad righty. Every single time. Give me Jock Peterson against a bad righty. If people aren't going to that play against Jameson Taillon here, I want the Rangers in my lineup. 5,000 for Adolis. Look at the premium contact Adolis has made over a few batted ball events. That's great. That's exactly where we want him. It's only turned into 2 home runs. A 265 ISO is great, though. 176, 282, 441. Who cares? We're just looking for that high-quality bat on ball for 5,000. 3,600 on FanDuel. Perfectly happy to pay it, especially when everybody else around him is cheap. These 3 guys are appropriately priced. You can definitely argue that Corey Seager is significantly discounted on both sites. Not a great start for Seager over 34 plate appearances. Again, who cares? We know how good Corey Seager is. 30 home runs last year at 234 ISO, 140 WRC+. This series year, 296 ISO. Creator runs 69% better than average. Nice. 33 home runs on the board that season. 390 on base. He's a superstar. He's only 51? 34? What, because it's a little cold tonight at Wrigley? I don't get it. And people aren't rushing to it. This is a big-time upside spot for me, especially with how cheap they are on DK. And the lineup continues after Garcia. Jake Berger, he's got 2 home runs on the board this season. Fine. He's not a great hitter, but he blasted 29 homers last year. He had a 209 ISO. He created runs 6% better than average. He had 34 home runs the year before that and 540 plate appearances with a 268 ISO. Jake Berger hits home runs. Jake Berger's a good DFS option. 3,800 at first base. 2,700 at first base? Yes. Big time, yes. Jonah Heim, Josh Young, Leody Taveras at the bottom of the lineup. That's a very high-quality bottom 3. Heim can definitely sneak into lineups where you have to play catcher, switch hitter with a little bit of pop in the bat, 2 home runs on the board, a good start to his season. Josh Young at 32, 28 over 7 plate appearances. Sure, that doesn't really mean much. Last year, only 188 plate appearances. He hit 7 home runs, held down a pretty strong slash line, and the on-base wasn't very good. 102 WRC+, but remember, 2 years ago, in 515 plate appearances, 23 homers, a 201 ISO. Creator runs 10% better than average as a young up-and-comer. It's a really interesting player. I don't care that he's hitting 8th in a lineup that I want to get to against Jameson Taillon. I don't understand it. I really don't. Taillon last season, 165 and a third. Just a 3.27 ERA, very good. But just a 4.15 xFIP, that's a full run higher almost. 15 points worse than average by Stuff Plus. So he's out there throwing batting practice. 18.5% strikeout rate. Yeah, he doesn't walk that many guys. Decent whip at 113, so you got to capitalize on the opportunities he does push your way. But this is a gettable pitcher. You can see Stuff Plus this season so far, greatly improved. We'll see how that holds up in the longer term. First start this season, 4 1/3. Gave up 6 earned runs, 9 hits to the Diamondbacks. Fairly comparable lineup, I would say. Struck out 1, allowed 2 home runs. Second start went better. 6 innings, gave up 2 earned, gave up a homer, struck out 7 against the Athletics. Athletics will do that from time to time. He also walked 3. This is a targetable pitcher. Conditions are working against you in Wrigley. That is the only thing working against you in my mind. Would not really roster. I don't really see it. At 62 on DraftKings as an SP2 as a crazy discounted guy. As I talked about at the beginning of the show, I do think you can get that just if you want to go to that cheap Apple Box guy. You can use it, especially with Vegas on your side and the conditions on your side. So Taillon not off the board. In no way a priority for me, though. And that's only on DraftKings. On FanDuel at 83, for me, he's basically off the board. I really don't see it. Arguably, you could maybe work clean to the quality start, but what do your strikeouts even look like? Because this is not a bad strikeout lineup. So far this season, sub 20%. Last year, 21.7%. I just don't know where you're getting upside out of, all right, maybe he gave me 6 shutout innings and a quality start, and we'll see if they win. Gets me to 28, 30. It's okay, but not at 83 on FanDuel. Over here, that would be a good start. Obviously, no quality start bonus. You need the win, but blah, blah, blah. Cubs bats, Rangers bats, neither pitcher for me, but Jamison Taillon on DraftKings is the only playable part of pitcher in this game. Don't play Patty Corbin. Now we get interesting. Freddie Peralta pitching at Coors Field. Freddie with a 34.8% strikeout rate over his first 2. That amounts to exactly 8 strikeouts in both starts. Second one went better than the first one. First one faced the Yanks, went 5, just 2 earned runs, but gave up 2 homers. Those were both solo shots, obviously. Struck out 8, walked 1. Yanks can get up there flailing against a pitcher like Freddie. The Arsenal was working really well. If you watched that game, he just kind of got burnt by the 2 mistakes. Stuff Plus kind of bears that out over the first couple of starts as well, 108. The second start, went 8 innings, faced 26 hitters. That was against Kansas City. A very good offense that's fairly low strikeout. Struck out another 8 hitters, just 1 earned run on 2 hits. Excellent, excellent start for Freddie. The Rockies are not the Royals, and they're also not the Yankees. They do have Coors Field on their side. I would say this comes down to how you typically treat good starters at Coors Field. For me, they're playable. Freddie Peralta at 7,800 going up against the Colorado Rockies. They could be playing this game on the moon, and I would still want it. That is a excellent strikeout pitcher against a high strikeout lineup with a bunch of young kids in it. There's power there for sure on the Rockies. There's quality there. There's plenty of strikeouts for Freddie to go get. I'm not going to sweat Coors Field of it at 7,800. At 9,000, single starter on FanDuel, it's a completely different proposition. I probably don't use it that much on FanDuel. I would use it. I might have a couple shares. But it's not a priority. It's not nearly as interesting as it is at 78 on DraftKings. That is appealing. So, playing with fire, again, I won't push it too much because I know people don't love to go to Coors, but Freddie's excellent. And yes, it's the best offensive park in baseball, but we've seen countless pitchers overcome that, and Freddie is of that quality. Kyle Freeland, on the other hand, I think you can destroy with some Brewers bats here. 5.31 implied total in Vegas for the Brewers. Definitely an interesting spot. They're going to be hyper chalky. It's Coors Field. The Rockies implied total at just 4.29, by the way, I think bears out everything I'm saying about Freddie. I think that's Vegas saying this is a pretty playable spot. That's a pretty good pitcher. Top of the Brewers lineup. Jackson Chourio at 6,000. Sure, why not? 3,800 on FanDuel. He's got 3 home runs on the board. The Golden Halo Plus that he put up in one of the games against the Yankees obviously was a bad start to his season, but he's completely overcome that in 45 plate appearances. 295, 289. The on base needs some work, but he's a power hitter extraordinaire. Excellent for stolen base upside. One of the best players in baseball, or will grow into that very, very quickly. 9.79 second on the Brewers in the home run model. Doesn't need to hit a home run to deliver major fantasy points in Coors Field either. Just drive the ball and have it carry. This is a gigantic ballpark, and he can run for days. So definitely major upside for Chourio. Love Christian Yelich. 52.4% hard hits. Another guy who's driving double over somebody's head, and it easily turns into a triple in this ballpark a lot of the time. 1 home run, 2 stolen bases on the board, out to a kind of a weak start over 39 plate appearances that I don't care at all about. Christian Yelich has never been bad, ever. Drives the ball like crazy. Excellent left-handed hitter. Low strikeout, high walk. He's everything you would want outside of maybe he's not the best home run hitter in the world. William Contreras, 5,200, 3,600. One of the best catcher bats in the league. Just ignore these 38 plate appearances so far this year. They do not matter. Last season, 281, 365, 466, a 131 WRC+. Plus. He hit 23 home runs. He's excellent. Just play him if you're going to the Brewers, especially over here. The fact that he's 52, which I know is not a cheap price on DraftKings, but compared to 6,000 and 5,700 for the top 2 in that lineup, I feel like he should have cracked 55 on the site where you have to play catchers. That feels a little cheap. relative terms. And then everybody else in the lineup actually is cheap until you get the Bryce Turang down at the bottom of the projected of 56. Turang might be up at the top of the lineup. We'll see. Lefty, they don't typically do that. But this is not a great lefty. They might want to just capitalize on his speed, his on-base skills that he's flashed early this season. But Sal Frelick is cheap at 41. Rhys Hoskins with his power upside is cheap at 46 at first base. 9.92 in the home run model for Rhys. Hasn't hit one yet this year. In fact, hasn't driven the ball at all. Exactly a 0 ISO. Nearly half as bad as average at creating runs. Hasn't barreled the ball yet this season. He'll come around. 12.7% barrels over a full season last year. Frelick is just a hit tool, a little bit of speed type guy. 452 on base, over 42 plate appearances is great. Keep it up, Sal. 2 stolen bases. That said, not an ideal guy to have hitting 5th. Vinny Capra does have a little bit of power, a little ability to drive the ball. He's got 1 home run on the board so far this year. Isaac Collins and Joey Ortiz kind of mix and match guys between the two. I would probably take Ortiz for the shortstop eligibility at a fair price. 4.16, kind of outpacing Collins a little bit in the home run model. And then again, Turang, excellent ability to steal bases. He's got 2 already this year. He's also driven the ball effectively, 2 home runs, excellent barrel and hard hit numbers in a small sample of batted ball events. Last year, it was really about the 50 stolen bases. 316 on base is okay, but you got to do better than that if you're going to maintain like a long-term I'm a stolen base asset type guy. But that's an excellent total with that on base. And if he starts driving the ball like he was kind of expected to coming up, is a completely different player who's going to be really interesting. He's fully priced though, $56.35 for the good start. You're paying every dollar for Bryce Turang. On the Rockies side, Brenton Doyle, Ezekiel Tovar, Ryan McMahon, Hunter Goodman is a pretty interesting top 4. And then Chris Bryant has been kind of dead for the better part of 3 years since signing in Colorado. But Michael Toglia is interesting further down the lineup. It's just you're tangling with a really good pitcher who's very likely to put some zeros and punch some holes in this lineup via the strikeout. Even if Freddie gives up some contact, even if Freddie gives up a long ball or a run-scoring event, I still like him to mostly have an effective start here. Could be a day where they score 3, but there's no big knock. Even if they score 5, it's not necessarily a great day. And that's basically the run total is in between those 2 numbers. So I really do like the Brewers pitching staff ability to kind of keep this lineup in check as far as creating a ton of DFS runs. That could go completely haywire. It's Coors Field. Let's be honest. But the idea that you can get to the semi-contrarian Rockies here at everybody under 5,000 at Coors Field and quite a few players under 4,000 puts them in consideration at least as a value stack. 3,700, a bunch of guys in the 3s on FanDuel. It's a little bit less of an impact value-wise. Over here, this could at least get interesting. If they're anywhere near these prices the rest of the week against other pitchers, definitely a spot we're going to be intrigued by. Doyle at 49. There's hard hit there. He's got a home run on the board. There's a little bit of speed there. Last season, 23 home runs, 30 stolen bases with a 317 on base. Managed to not create runs positively. 3% below average, but a 186 ISO. Solid. Another guy who's one of the best defenders in baseball. The Cubs would trade instantly to have Pete Crow Armstrong be able to hit like this. If you just said, you could have Brenton Doyle's numbers for Pete Crow Armstrong, they would say, versus whatever he might turn into, they would say yes. They would sign up immediately for it. Brenton Doyle is the good version of that. Ezekiel Tovar, 43% hard hit rate to start this season. Sub 40 last year, but a 9% barrel. Set a record, I believe, for swing and missing. But a semi-effective bat with some power, with some speed, playing at Coors Field for a cheap price. 26 homers last year. Didn't really steal any bases, just 6 stolen bases, but a 200 ISO, 95 WRC+. I like him to run a little bit more if he's getting on base more frequently. Ryan McMahon, third base at 4,300, 3,200. Cheap for a guy we know has decent lefty pop going up against a right-handed pitcher in Coors Field. You can absolutely sign up for some McMahon shares, and he's come up lower owned than I think he should be in early Rockies stacks this year, it seems like. Not sure why that is. Maybe just people excited about, the younger players, the Doyles, Tovars, Goodmans, and Talias. But Ryan McMahon remains pretty interesting. Had a great start to last year and then kind of averaged down, but 20 home runs on the board last year. Not nothing. Goodman, there's just major power upside there. 2 home runs so far, 257 ISO. He's got catcher eligibility at 3,800. Outfield catcher and first base. Catcher, first base, obviously the same thing on FanDuel for just 33. Major power upside. In a cup of coffee last year, 155 plate appearances. Wait, is that it? No, 224. 224 plate appearances, 13 home runs. That's noteworthy. That is major power. Hit for a lot of power in the minors as well. As mentioned, Bryant's just kind of dead. 3,800, 3,100, 25 really weak plate appearances this year, 155 really weak plate appearances last year, 335 really weak plate appearances the year before that. Did manage 10 home runs that year, 73 WRC plus, 133 ISO. That was coming off of, 2022 was also pretty weak. 181 plate appearances. We just haven't had much Chris Bryant over the last 4 years. Thought it was 3. Time is weird. Talia is another major power bat. Flashed it in the show a little bit last year. 25 home runs and 458 plate appearances. 238 ISO. Another guy who came in below average by WRC plus. But being on a team like this will do that to you. 25 home runs is what we want to focus on through, and 10 stolen bases to boot in, again, only 458 plate appearances. Monster power upside. $4,300 switch hitter, $3,200 first base and outfield eligible on FanDuel. If you're going to the Rockies, and again, they are low-owned, they are cheap, just going up against an excellent pitcher, Talia should be in most of your lineups. Nick Martini, Kyle Farmer, and Zach Veen down the bottom of the lineup. The first two, not so much. Veen is a decently regarded rookie, if I'm remembering him correctly. 11 home runs, 21 steals in just 270 plate appearances across the minors last year. Missed some time, obviously. 2022 in high A and double A, 12 home runs, 55 stolen bases in 541 plate appearances. Not a completely uninteresting player if he's down the bottom of the lineup. Not available on DK, at least as of when I added the salary. Keep an eye out for him. 2,500 on FanDuel with outfield eligibility. Quite easily, Brewers bats up top. Freddie Peralta on DraftKings. Rockies bats. Freddie Peralta on FanDuel. Nah, I'm going to unwind that. Freddie over the Rockies on both sides. Then Rockies bats. For me, it's no Kyle Freeland. What you can get out of Kyle Freeland is the oddball shot at clean innings. 6 2/3 on the road against Philly. He gave up 3, struck out just 3, walked none. And then at Tampa Bay, 6 innings, faced 20 hitters, gave up just 2 hits, 7 strikeouts. Pretty solid performance there, but don't expect a repeat of that. Just not a quality pitcher. Last year, 5.16 ERA with a 4.38 xFIP, just 17% strikeouts. There's just nothing to chase there. Tall to God, what's going on, buddy? Yeah, 3-run. I'm not definitely not disagreeing that ownership can be helpful. And yeah, for cash games, sure, for baseball. I'm not a big cash game baseball guy anyway. It's just crazy to chase cash games for baseball, honestly. But yeah, that's where you would definitely want it. And it's not to discount the, what you can draw from ownership projections on for baseball. It's obviously informs which of the top stacks that look good via projections are most compelling and to buy you some leverage against where the field is. It's very important for Sims, obviously. There are plenty of places out there doing excellent work in it. I still think that probably Osmo is the best as far as the quality of the ownership projections. The ones I use kind of come and go, but I do refer to them without giving them away on the show sometimes. Another spot I think here, we're looking for bats. 4.80 implied total on both sides. These two teams were drawing exactly even in Vegas. Two capable but also highly skippable pitchers, I would say. Merrill Kelly, Charlie Morton. One ancient righty, one mid-career righty. Starting with Charlie, did go 5 in his most recent start, did strike out 10. That was against the Red Sox, but he also gave up 2 homers, 5 earned on 6 hits. Not a good start. 3 strikeouts and a walk, 4 earned runs on 7 hits over just 3 1/3 against Toronto in his first one. And now he gets one of the better offenses in baseball over the last couple of years. Problematic spot for Charlie. He's only 67 on DraftKings. I do think you can throw cheap darts at it if you want to. But I would rather do it with whoever I said before. I made the comparison at the beginning of the show. Oh, Tyon against Texas on DraftKings. I would rather take that 62 than this 67, with them projecting out similarly, with Morton facing the probably somewhat better offense, even though Tyon is also very low strikeout. The truth is, I don't want either of them. But between the two, I would take the $500 discount on Tyon over Charlie Morton. For Merrill Kelly, first start, 5 1/3, just 1 earned on 3 hits. Was effective in that department, but 1 strikeout and 4 walks. Problematic. 2 strikeouts, 3 walks in his second start, and that was followed by 3 home runs, 9 earned runs on 9 hits over 3 2/3. That was against the Yankees. Got destroyed in that game. The numbers this season are terrible. You can ignore them, but you're not ignoring them for anything overly favorable. 4.03 ERA at 3.89 xFIP last year. The sub-4 xFIP is nice, but it doesn't come with any kind of strikeout upside, just a 9.3% swinging strike rate last year. Finished with a 21% strikeout rate against a 6.3% walk rate. 2 years ago, he was better for Ks. 25.9% strikeouts that year, but 9.6% walks. That's always going to be problematic. It's going to burn him on earned runs. This was an effective year. This was a deep year where he pitched well in terms of the runs, but the strikeouts were more like what they looked like last year than they were this kind of outlier upside strikeout season in 23. So I think the truth is more the 21, 22% strikeout guy, the 4-run guy, the moderate walk rate guy. It's not going to be a 6.5 and a 15-2 all season. But I think like 21.5 and an 8.5, something like that, is probably in line. Again, capable, but not the guy I want to grab and throw against this Orioles team when they're pulling a pretty good total in Vegas and with Gunnar Henderson back in the lineup. So I'm almost exclusively looking bats here outside of just the oddball dart throw lineup. In that case, you can use either of these pitchers, but just loosely. Between the two of these guys, I would lean Charlie. Just more strikeout upside. 67, 8,000 projects a little bit better. But again, don't really prioritize either guy. Gunnar, 9.64 in the home run model. I came close to making him the home run pick of the day today. I kind of wanted to, but he didn't crack 10. We had Mike Trout sitting at the top of the board. I'm a sucker, and the Angels are kind of interesting. So I went that route, but love Gunnar in this spot. Hasn't gotten out to a great 18 plate appearances, but who cares? Just know that he's a superstar, and at 55, he's probably a couple bucks cheap. 3,700, probably a couple bucks cheap. This is a $4,000 FanDuel player. Adley at 5,000, 3,400, very, very playable. Whether you need catchers or not, you can just use him like he's a first baseman on the FanDuel slate. 2 home runs on the board to start his season, a 179 ISO. His creator runs 25% better than average. We've talked about his season last year. We know there's more quality there. There's more power there. And last year was very good for catchers. Just we expect more from this particular catcher. But he's still excellent. Love the option today. Will have some Adley Rutschman in my lineups for sure on FanDuel, and he's a priority bat on DraftKings at catcher. Ryan O'Hearn is cheap, 3,700, 2,600. I believe that home run that's on the board came last night. 308, 379, 538, a 231 ISO to start his season. We've seen a lot of quality from him over the last 2 seasons. Good bat on ball skills, low strikeout, good cog in the machine for this lineup. Jordan Westburg, second and third base eligible on both sites. Fairly priced at $49.36. A little bit cheap, honestly, on DraftKings. $5,000 player. Three home runs on the board already. A 225 ISO to start his year. Had a monster breakout last year. Excellent, excellent option, especially with a little bit of a discount going up against this pitcher. I like that a lot. Cedric Mullins at $45.34. Discounted on DraftKings, not so much on FanDuel. That's about right for him on FanDuel. You can see the home run model doesn't really give him as much credit as most of the other players around him. But as I've said multiple times already this year, I'll repeat it again. This is a guy who's gone 30-30 in the past. He's got 3 home runs already this season. He had 18 last year, which isn't nothing. He stole 32 bags. 15 the year before. It was kind of more of a down season in 23 than it was 24. Bounced back a little bit last year, and I don't know that he necessarily got credit. Went undrafted in a lot of season-long leagues. Tyler O'Neill, 48.35, highly playable power bat. It's not a bad price for 23.1% barrels so far this year, 17.3 in a larger sample last year. Over a full season, Tyler O'Neill is one of the better power hitters in baseball. Just needs those plate appearances. Really like him to round out a stack down toward the bottom here. They're not cheap, but they're not crazy expensive. That's 6 guys. If you want to go 6 guys, it's only $4,700 a piece. Let's leave out, well, with apologies to Mr. Mullins, we'll take the infielders, and then we'll take Tyler O'Neill there. So I can get that at $47 a man. It includes Gunnar, O'Neill, Rutschman, O'Hearn, Westburg. It's not a bad 5 men on DraftKings against Merrill Kelly. And there's stuff to work with at the bottom of the lineup. If you need to make that cheaper, work Houston Kjerstad in there. Work Ryan Mountcastle in there at just $3,900. There's plenty of home run upside on Ryan Mountcastle. 5.98 in the home run model. He's not destroying the top of it because the power's been down a little bit. But a couple years ago, he had plenty of home runs. He makes excellent premium contact. That's all you really need. Fairly low strikeout, fairly low walk, so there's an abundance of contact. And then Jackson Holliday, potentially burgeoning star, just kind of hidden at the bottom of the lineup. He's no secret. People know he's there. But not going to get used as much as he probably should. 4,100 at second base and shortstop on DraftKings, and very cheap at 2,800 for his skill set on FanDuel. Good start to his season, 294, 314, 471 so far. Just needs to keep that up. Corbin Carroll's excellent at the top lineup, 59, 38 across sites, 3 home runs already. The good start is nice to see over 50 plate appearances, given the depth to which he had plunged at the beginning of last year and had to recover from with a phenomenal second half. I'd like to see just a full season of excellence out of Corbin Carroll. He's fully priced. He's well worth it against Charlie Morton. Geraldo Perdomo, an excellent on-base hitter. He's kind of come around with the bat early this season. Hasn't barreled the ball yet. Hasn't really hit the ball hard. That's not really what he does. But what he does is avoid strikeouts, draw walks, get to first base, and make things happen. 108 WRC plus. Very interesting at just 38 at shortstop, 29 on FanDuel, especially hitting second in this lineup lately with Ketel Marte out again. Pavin Smith, 36-27. Really interesting. Makes very good contact. 14.7% barrels, 44% hard hits last season. It was a moderate sample of plate appearances, only 158, but he blasted 9 home runs. 277 ISO in that sample in the show, and he hit for power in the minors. Josh Naylor at 47-31 has not yet hit his first Diamondbacks home run, but everything else has been in place. The power's just been out a little bit. 300, 391, 400. Created runs 28% better than average so far. Has not struck out really at all. 6.5% Ks over his first 46. 13% walk rate. Those are Josh Naylor kind of things. Just hasn't really hit the ball hard yet. It'll come around. 3 stolen bases is completely bizarre. Lourdes Gurriel, Eugenio Suarez, Gabriel Moreno, 3 excellent bats to find cheap late lineup. 4,300, 4,800, 3,400, including a catcher bat. Eugenio Suarez has 5 home runs on the board. They all came very early in a rush. It's kind of the type of hitter that he's been over the last couple of seasons. But as long as he's making his premium contact, that's all we need him to do. I never need him to hit for average. I don't really care. Just need those big knocks from time to time. He's always going to be a part of Diamondback stacks. 4,800 is cheap. 3,600, not cheap, but hopefully a little less popular for that price. Moreno, off to an okay start. The on-base is nice. Hasn't really created any runs yet, but last year was a positive run creator at a 107 WRC+. The on-base is excellent for a catcher at 353. Just hasn't really hit for much power, but it is a good hit tool. They do expect his power to come along a little bit. Once upon a time, one of the top overall prospects in baseball, top catcher prospect in baseball. Just needs a little bit more growth. And then Jake McCarthy and Tim Tawa bottom of the lineup. Tim Tawa, productive first 8 plate appearances with a couple of runs on the board, I guess, for counting stats, but nothing else about that looks all that good. Did we pull up Tawa the other day? I forgot. Minors last season, 31 homers, 14 steals in 613 plate appearances. That'll play for the dead men. 279, 349, 519. Struck out at just a 20% clip. Walked 8.6%. That was across 157 at AAA, 456 at AA. 25 years old. On schedule-ish. That's a really interesting bat to have at the mid price at second base. 2,200 at second base on FanDuel. Considering that there is some apparent on-base ability here, there is some stolen base ability here, I would consider him a very effective option as a wraparound. At worst, it's kind of like having Geraldo Perdomo down there with potentially a little bit more power. So, very interesting hitter who can really quickly cheapen up your Diamondback stack. Carol Perdomo, let's go. Those two. The Deadman wraparound. I want Suarez in there. So I probably want to go Naylor. That way I get my staggered lineup here. So for Carroll, Perdomo, Naylor, Suarez, and Tawa, 4,200 apiece against Charlie Morton. That'll play. That'll play quite nicely. Orioles bats over Diamondbacks bats. I think, how did I rank it on this site? That's not the right click. Yeah, Orioles are 3, Diamondbacks are 8 overall. They do rank 3rd in Vegas, though, while the Orioles rank 4th. That was earlier in the day. Now they're tied. I'll go Orioles over Diamondbacks. I'll stay consistent with what's up on the site, but it's very, very close. These are 2 very effective offenses. loosely capable pitchers. You can throw a dart at low ownership at either pitcher if you want to, but it's Orioles, D-backs, bats, and really neither pitcher for me. 3 games to go. We're not getting off by 3. Hit the like button. Subscribe to the channel. Rambling our way through this slate. It's only been an hour and a half show. I guess I'm not that far behind schedule. Forgot it started at 15, not at 1 o'clock exactly. Astros bats. Jose Altuve, 3 home runs on the board, 2 stolen bases to start the year. Out there doing Jose Altuve things to kickstart this Astros offense that otherwise has been pretty bad. Kind of struggling for everybody else around him. Isaac Paredes, you guys know I don't really like this bat. We looked at it last night. This would be one of the worst home run parks for him in all of baseball. Not a good spot for his bat. And they're going up against a good pitcher. So this is maybe a spot where we draw some cheap Jose Altuve or some fairly priced Jose Altuve one-offs. Maybe we draw some Jordan Alvarez one-offs at full price. The reason for that would be just he is excellent on his own, regardless of anything going on around him, regardless of who's on the mound. And he is drawing a 10-plus in the home run model against a pitcher who has been a little gettable for home runs. So I think Alvarez is loosely in play. A 2-man of like Altuve and Alvarez, if you're into 2-mans, is fine. I would probably stretch that to 3 and work Christian Walker into that. But then if you're stretching to 3 on DraftKings, well, you might as well go 4 to get Yainer Diaz in there at 3,600. That's very cheap for an excellent, excellent bat. He's cheapened up over his first 32 plate appearances because he has not hit the ball at all. Negative 43 WRC plus is not good. 0.067, 125, 0.067 triple slash to start the season. He is significantly better than that and has been over the last 2 seasons. There's actually lurking power there. Love the player's upside in the long term. Like him today at 36 if you're going Astros. I just don't totally love going Astros with a 3.5 run total against Luis Castillo. The hell was that noise? Why are there always weird noises when I'm doing shows? It sounded like breaking glass, but not in here. And okay, maybe it was just the dog sneezing. The other dog's in the other room. So for me, with this one, it's on the Astros side. All right, hold on one second. Dill, what are you doing, buddy? What's going on? You all right? He's just standing there. So it's really, as I was saying, it's more about Luis Castillo being on the mound and the Astros being clipped down in Vegas to make them really not that appealing. And I don't love their 2-hitters. So it's a 3-man off the top here, and you get decent home run marks. You can stretch to the 4, but then I don't really like many of the 5th options. So it's kind of tangled with the Astros. With everybody off to rough starts, not ideal. I think we're mostly skipping their bats in a pitcher-friendly park and kind of looking at Luis Castillo, who is not off to a great start. 12 innings, 18.4% Ks in his first 2. That amounts to 5 strikeouts over 7. 5 hits, 2 earned runs, gave up a home run to Detroit. 4 strikeouts, 2 walks, over 5, faced 21 hitters, gave up 2 runs. So not total meltdowns by any stretch, but not really putting up Luis Castillo type numbers yet. Last year, 24.3% against a 6.5% walk rate, 3.64 ERA with a 3.82 xFIP. As we mentioned a couple times already, starting to slip a little. The strikeouts were down. The swinging strikes were down. The runs were up a little bit. The power was up a little bit. So I do think there's slippage around Luis Castillo. But I don't think it's enough to really push many Astros into my lineups. On the other side, Framber Valdez, I expect is going to be, if not my highest owned pitcher of the day, my second highest owned. 8,800 is a fantastic price on DraftKings. We talked about it a lot at the top of the show. 10-3 on FanDuel, perfectly willing to pay it. He projects out as one of the best options. We're just targeting this team when they're playing in their home park. We're going to target them on the road as well, but particularly in their home park, especially with a pitcher like this who keeps power in check to significant degrees despite the 2 home runs he gave up to the Giants in his last game. Outlier spot there. Has good strikeout stuff against a team that pushes strikeouts towards opposing pitchers. Love Framber in this spot, particularly on DraftKings at that cheap price. I expect he'll be popular. I wouldn't care. I think you just play him. 9 strikeouts in the last game. Gave up 5 earned, 2 home runs allowed to San Francisco. That was a bad start. That'll be one of his worst starts of the year. 4 strikeouts, 2 walks in the first one. Did go 7, allowed just 4 hits, no runs. Perfectly serviceable DFS start there. That was against the Mets. Love, love, love the upside for the lefty today against this Mariners team. Stuff Plus loves it. 114 mark. That's right on where he was last season. And what we always rave about with Fromber is the ridiculous ability to keep the ball on the ground, negate launch angle completely. Negative 3.6, negative 5 something the year before that. It's going back a little bit, but he's maintained that quality. So he's just excellent. Every now and then it gets shaky. Every now and then he has a bad one, but like I said, that one from his last start will probably end up being one of the lower end starts of the season for him. Love the upside. If you're mining Mariners, I don't love it. Considering Fromber's ability to largely take the home run away, you can see even Cal Raleigh at 5.99, Julio Rodriguez at just 5.8, and then everybody else significantly below that. A free swinging team that can put a lot of zeros into lineups when they're not showing much power upside, which is what you want from this squad. I really don't see it for the Mariners today. 3.62 is the higher of these two totals in Vegas, but I think I prefer the Astros. More vulnerable pitcher slightly. Again, do not let me exaggerate that too much because it's still an excellent pitcher. But I think the higher quality lineup is the Astros. The more gettable of these two pitchers is Luis Castillo. So I really don't see Vegas having it right there. A little bit odd. If you're going Mariners, though, Arosarena at just 41.31. 2 home runs on the board, a stolen base. That's his skill set. There's power there. There's speed there. Same thing with Julio Rodriguez to a higher degree. 3 home runs, 3 stolen bases so far, a 127 WRC+. The slash line needs to come around. He needs to start dunking some hits in there, but obviously very, very early, and nothing matters so far this year in terms of those numbers. 52.35, he's effectively priced. You can go there. Cal Raleigh at 43,000. Where you need catchers, you would definitely want a share of either Cal Raleigh or Mitch Garver if they're both in the lineup, in essentially every lineup that you draw from the Mariners, because if you're going to this team, those guys are 2 of their better power bats. They're 2 of their better, upper end of the lineup bats. They both fit at catcher for 2 very different prices. So again, like I was saying about about Texas earlier, that wasn't Texas, whatever team it was earlier. If you're going to this team, use the advantages. Take your catcher from that team when you go to them, especially with 2 capable, cheap catchers. So I would include one of those 2 players in basically every Mariner stack on DK, but I'm not building a lot of Mariner stacks. Jorge Polanco, Donovan Solano, Dylan Moore, Ryan Bliss, despite the home run last night, and J.P. Crawford, all are highly skippable players against this pitcher. Any one of those guys can go into a stack if you're building stacks. Polanco's off to an encouraging start with 2 home runs on the board after a couple disastrous seasons. Solano is an effective line drive hitter, hasn't been over 14 plate appearances this year, but you give him a little bit more time and he will be. Dylan Moore's just a mix and match type, so is Ryan Bliss. He did hit the home run last night. He's got 2 steals on the season. And then at the bottom of the lineup, J.P. Crawford's been kind of a mess over the last couple of years, but you're looking to him for on base. 342 on base so far over 40 plate appearances. I guess you could cling to. But not a good spot for the Mariners. This goes Framber Valdez, Luis Castillo, Astros bats, and then low end for the Mariners bats, kind of bringing up the bottom. Didn't mean to skip the Reds. This is another interesting pitching spot in terms of what the pitcher does to the opposing home run numbers. We got to see it hold up for Landon Root. But we talked about it last time for his first start. The minor league numbers bear it out. The ability to cut launch angle and keep the ball down and limit home runs has been fairly on display. Outside of the 31.2 degree average launch in that first start, it's kind of problematic. But we don't expect that to carry over. He didn't allow any home runs in that game. So the projections, the long-term numbers that he's put up through the minors, cut down the home run numbers for the Reds on the other side, as does his ballpark somewhat. But it is kind of a case of I need to see it a little bit more to make sure that it's real at the major league level before I would really say that we want to go there or want to chase 7,300 on either site. He projects out okay. First game, he did strike out 8. That was against the Astros. Low strikeout squad in a lot of spots. Gave up 3 earned on 4 hits. A lot of fly balls in there, but no home runs. Work in progress. We will very much wait and see, I think, on Landon Root, especially against an effective enough Reds team that they could do exactly what the Astros did there to kind of limit that start. I also don't know what the depth is going to look like on Root here. There are strikeouts on board for him, though. If he goes out and strikes out another 8, it wouldn't shock me. but he also might strike out 8 while giving up 5. TJ Friedl, 3,900, 2,900 off the top. He's got a home run and a stolen base on the board. Again, we're not counting on power, but just the quality of the speed upside with this team, the ability to create runs in other ways, at least keeps him somewhat interesting. Blake Dunn is cheap in the 2 spot. He's got a home run on the board over 19 plate appearances. Not a ton to see there right now. Elliott, 6,241, obviously is this top priority bat on this team if you're going there. 2 home runs, 2 steals so far this season, and 97 WRC plus. 25 homers, 67 stolen bases. Last year was a powder keg at the top of this lineup and is going to continue to grow as a superstar in this league. Gavin Lux is cheap for his skill set. Hasn't really flashed anything yet this year, but there's a little bit of pop there. There's a little bit of speed there. He's an intriguing option at second base if you're going to this team. But again, I want it on a day where they're showing a little bit more power upside. Christian Encarnacion Strand and Jeimer Candelario, both very limited in terms of the home run model. 2.25 and 1.78 from 2 true power bats. Encarnacion Strand more so than Candelario, but he's been a 20-plus home run guy. So really taking the power away from this team does cut into the playability DFS-wise. Spencer Steer, 36.27 with 3 positions on FanDuel is playable if you're going to this team, but again, not a real priority. Last season, 20 home runs, 25 steals, a 178 ISO, and a negative 4 WRC plus, 96 WRC plus, 4 points below average is what I was trying to say. Not ideal, but if you're chasing counting stats by going to this team, then you would include him. But what I would say to that is if we're taking home runs somewhat off the board maybe, gets thin. I actually think there's more upside on the Giants side. Vegas does too at 4 runs, but it's not exactly a whopping total going up against Nick Lodolo here. Lodolo last season, 24.7% Ks, but a 4.76 ERA, a 3.95 xFIP. Not ideal. The xFIP being below 4 and significantly below the ERA is nice. The stuff plus mark is very good at 105.79. We're above average stuff. We had an 11.8% strikeout rate with a swinging strike rate with a very solid CSW mark last year. So there are positives in there for Lodolo. Reasonably good at limiting hard hits. Exit velo is a little high, barrel's a little bit high, fly ball type trajectory. But this ballpark will help him out a little bit with that. At 8,200 against this team, I do think he's playable. There are plenty of strikeouts for him. He's going to need to be on form, obviously. First 2 starts, 6 2/3 against the Brewers at Milwaukee. Gave up 4 hits, just 1 run that was unearned, but only struck out 4. Didn't walk anybody. Only struck out 1 in the first game. That was against these Giants in Cincinnati. 6 innings, gave up 2 earned, gave up a home run, 5 hits, struck out just 1, walked 0. So the strikeout numbers have not been there early this season. I don't think that's going to be a lingering concern. You can see that the stuff is there. Grading out just like it did last year, slightly improved actually. So I think we expect the strikeouts to arrive, which makes him playable at 82 at worst. 94 is where I have problems with it on FanDuel. It's kind of like whoever the other spot was that was just, do I really want to go there on a single starter site at full price against the Giants lineup that's going to be loaded with quality righty bats that do have power upside, that do succeed against lefties? I don't love it here. I would play it there, but there are also other options in and below that price range for your SP2 shares on DraftKings. He's a high strikeout potential SP2, but again, has not shown that over his first 2 this season. I do think you can consider some probably lower owned than they ought to be Giants at very cheap prices. Elliot Ramos is very interesting from the top. 14.5% barrels, 47.4% hard hits last season. Struck out plenty, didn't walk all that much. 26.1 and 7.1%. 33.3 and 6.7 in a smaller sample the year before. But a growing player with true power upside from the right side. Lodolo not totally vulnerable to the home run, but there are fly balls available there. And Ramos is going to make some premium contact. 3 home runs, 2 stolen bases, especially if Lodolo's not finding the swinging strike stuff like he hasn't in these first 2 starts, not throwing strikes. 20.8% CSW while not walking anybody is ridiculous. So I would start a stack with Ramos. He's only 4 on DraftKings. He's 36 on FanDuel. FanDuel got it right. Very cheap for his quality on DraftKings. Willy Adames is also cheap at 44. 3,400 on FanDuel is correct. 32 home runs, 21 steals just last season with a 2.11 ISO. Creator runs 19% better than average. It's a high-quality shortstop against a gettable lefty. Wilmer Flores, we've played against lefties for years. Wilmer's off to a good start with 4 home runs already this season, 333 ISO. He's been a more complete hitter over the last couple of seasons overall. At worst, he's low strikeout, high frequency of contact, can draw walks and get involved. He's 3,300, 2,800 across sites, first and third base eligible on FanDuel. Definitely playable. Matt Chapman, another one of those high swing rate, high swing speed guys. Love Matt Chapman's bat. So far this year, 2 home runs on the board, 257, 395, 486. Looks like he's doing Matt Chapman things to me. 4,700, 3,600 on another guy. Correct on FanDuel. Low priced on DraftKings. Go for it on DK. Casey Schmidt, very, very cheap, has gone 0 for 7 over his first 7 plate appearances this year. Last season, 6 home runs on the board, 109 WRC plus in his 113 plate appearances. Was okay. Showed definite power upside with a 224 ISO there. Year before, over 277, he only hit 5 home runs, had a 119 ISO. We'll see where the truth really lands. Luis Matos is an interesting bat, off to a good start in 15 plate appearances. Not much of a sample size there. Last year in 156, he hit 5 home runs, was 40 points below average for run creation. In 253 the year before, he was not good. But once upon a time, kind of a highly regarded prospect for this team. I'm encouraged by the start. It's only 15 plate appearances, so I'm not actually encouraged by the start. It means nothing at all. Forget I said that. This is why I hate putting the board up this early with current season stats, because these things just, as you're talking, these things just kind of come out. It would be nice if he continues that start and it becomes an encouraging start. Let's say that. I don't think it's out of the question that he could. 27, 23, he's very playable. Sam Huff, mix and match piece at catcher. He is a dead min price catcher if he's in the lineup. I think you can play that just as a step stool. Tyler Fitz, good numbers in a moderate sample last year, just 3,200 at both middle infield spots on DraftKings, 27 without added outfield eligibility on FanDuel, for sure. And then Christian Koss is at the bottom of the lineup, and I don't know that much about him. Christian Koss is 27 years old. The reason I don't know that much about him is because he didn't really do much through the minors. 9 home runs, 13 steals in 324 last year, AAA. 4 home runs, 15 steals in 296 back in Boston system in 2023. I don't think there's all that much there outside of a cheap price in the infield. This goes Giants bats, Reds bats, Nick Lodolo, mostly on DraftKings, and then Landon Roop, who I do think you could throw a couple cheap darts at, most particularly as an SP2 on DraftKings. I don't think there's safety with Roop. Like I said, need to see it more, but he's at least kind of intriguing and cheap. Pitcher I really like at the top of the board here, last game up, one of our highest projected pitchers of the day, Dylan Cease, coming up on 3 o'clock. Quiet chat today. Handful of people here watching right now live. More people, I'm sure, firing up the show and catching up on 2 times speed. Hello to all of you guys. You absolutely rock. I appreciate all of you. Hit the like button. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Check out rotoscouts.com. Last plug of the day. Under $1 a day gets you access to baseball projections, basketball projections, hockey projections, football projections when it's going on. All of it. No per sport nonsense. Under $1 a day. We are targeting the people out there who are not spending thousands of dollars on lineups every night, not entering multiple slates of 150 lineups apiece. We're targeting people out there who are building 15 lineups, 5 lineups, 1 lineup, 25 lineups, and so forth. If you build 150, great. These will work great for you. There's no downside. But the price point is what I'm talking about. We are targeting the audience, the massive audience of people that doesn't want to pay $300-$400 a month for projections. Under $1 a day gets you access to all the sports we cover. Check it out. rotoscouts.com. 8Game. Please don't take your hands off the wheel, buddy. Yes. 8Game says, I'm always lurking in the chat, but my hands stay on the wheel and I usually don't type while I drive. Appreciate that, buddy. Yeah, we don't type while you drive. Stay alive. Padres bats going up against Jeffrey Springs. We'll see what we get out of Springs. One good one, one bad one. Second start of the year. Faced the Cubs. We were talking about Cubbies bats that day a little bit. Ended up just striking out 3, walked 4, gave up 4 earned, gave up a home run on 5 hits, faced just 19 hitters over 3 innings. In his first start, the lefty was excellent, and we were on him that day because he was facing the Mariners in Seattle. Go figure. 6 innings, he struck out 9. He walked 1. He gave up 3 hits and no runs. Was dominant that day. This is a good strikeout pitcher. We just haven't had much of Jeffrey Springs over the last few years. We highlighted it that first start. 33 innings over 7 starts last year. 16 innings over 3 the year before. Better sample back in 22. 135 and a third over 25. But solid strikeout numbers all the way down. Swinging strike rate is excellent. In a full season, those are dominant numbers. That's an ace. So we will very much see what we get out of Springs. I think he's interesting at 75 on DraftKings. Not a high strikeout target, which is the problem. So if he's going to be doing anything along the lines of the contact he gave up last game, it could get ugly in a hurry. You're getting a little bit of quality in the home run model on Fernando Tatis Jr. and Manny Machado, but not that much else for the Padres. But where they can create problems is just putting bat on ball, remaining low strikeout. So far this season, this projected lineup, 16.8% strikeouts. Last year, 21% in a more complete sample for this group. Year before that was similar. So a lot of low strikeout guys. Might not be the best day to chase Jeffrey Springs. On FanDuel at 88, I really don't think we go there that much. Sub 26 projection, 25-point projection, not great. This is just a better point per dollar proposition as like your SP2 and a high-grade SP2 at that. So I think he's way more playable on DK than he is on FanDuel. You can throw some darts on FanDuel, but I don't think you're getting much for your money there. Cease, as I started to talk about a minute ago, perfectly happy to pay 10-3, 10,000 for. Would probably pay more in this spot if he was more highly priced. I think he just looks excellent here. He's off to a good start. 7 strikeouts in both of his first 2. 6 and a third in his second game. Gave up just 1 earned on 4 hits. Walked 1 against Cleveland. First start, gave up 3 earned. Gave up a home run in there. That was against Atlanta. 4 and a third. Struck out 7. Walked 2. It was okay. Just an okay start to the season, but the second one definitely encouraging. Looked like Dylan Cease. Good strikeout matchup for him here. This team right now at just 19.3% Ks for this projected lineup, but this same group of hitters last season, that was only 20.3. That's being averaged down by Jacob Wilson and Gio Urshela. Let's talk about the guys that matter. If we look at that group, it's already back to 22.9. That's including Miguel Andujar, and that's kind of an empty 13.2. We talk about the guys that really, really matter. Now we're at 24.9 for your top 5. So there are definitely strikeouts available here for Dylan Cease to go get. He's excellent at doing it. One of the best strikeout artists in the league, in my opinion. 12.4% swinging so far this year. Darling of Stuff Plus models. 120 last year is one of the best marks in baseball. 14.7% swinging strike rate to illustrate the point last year. A dominant ace of a strikeout pitcher. So really love the Dylan Cease shares. I do think the A's could get him. I'm not saying the A's are off the board because they've been an interesting contrarian team all season so far. They're playing in this minor league park in Sacramento. 4.07 in the Vegas numbers is not nothing. Getting a little bump from the ballpark there for sure. So I think guys like Tyler Soderstrom with his 6 home runs already this year, his 476 ISO, off to a ridiculous start. Player we expected quite a bit from this year and really wanted to draft in the Dynasty League. 3,400 across sites. FanDuel's kind of caught up. DraftKings, not so much. What you really want to see from Soderstrom is a couple catching performances so that he can get that catcher eligibility on DK, make him even more valuable. Lawrence Butler and Brent Rooker is a great way to start a stack at 51, 57. Those are appropriate prices for those two players. Rooker's got 4 home runs on the season. Off to a slow start in the rest of the slash line, but 240 ISO. He's at least hitting the ball hard and hitting home runs, which is really at the end of the day what you really need from him. I expect the rest of it will catch up to last year's kind of performance, though. Lawrence Butler, home run, stolen base on the board. That's what he does. Hits homers, steals bases. Pretty solid at getting on base, setting the table as well. So an excellent leadoff option up there. You get Shea Langoliers as a cheap catcher option for 41. So even without Soderstrom having catcher, you do have a good catcher here. 3 home runs already on the board from Langoliers. 250, 368, 531 probably doesn't hold, but the power is very, very real. The 15.8% strikeout rate also not going to hold, but the power will. JJ Bleday, a semi-interesting lefty bat. There's a little bit of pop there, maybe more poke than pop, but there's a little bit of upside on any given slate for the lefty, and I do think you can consider the lefty bat for a cheap price in place of, well, anybody below him in the lineup, and if you're skipping Langoliers and using Bleday, perfectly fine. I would rather get the catcher in there most of the time, I think, and there's more upside, more ceiling with Langoliers, but you probably get more consistency out of Bleday. He's a lower strikeout guy. He draws his walks. He gets involved. Miguel Andujar is just a hit tool option. Jacob Wilson, kind of interesting, 366, 561 start with a 195 ISO, 2 home runs on the board. That's not nothing from a $3,000 shortstop, $2,800 shortstop with a little bit of expectation. Gio Urshela is not much of a hitter. Max Muncy has not been much of a hitter so far. He's got 1 home run on the board, but pretty limited output otherwise. Mix and match options at best at the bottom of the A's against one of my favorite pitchers of the day. And then there's the Padres. Stack got there basically last night. Forgot what their end final run total was, but they were one of our top-ranked stacks. They produced. They're not back at the top of the board today. They're 11th. So Springs is getting a little bit of credit. On DraftKings, they do rank 6th by value, which I should point out. They also rank 7th overall on the home run model, on the Vegas board. 11th in the home run model. So 4-5-3, they're getting credit from Vegas. They're getting a little bit of upside, and they are, outside of Tatis, pretty damn cheap on DraftKings. So that's an interesting value option there. On FanDuel, I don't love Luis Arraez as a fantasy player. That's kind of the problem. On FanDuel, Bogey being at 3,000, Merrill at 35, 38 fully priced Manny Machado, who's a little bit cheap at 5,000 on DraftKings. It's not quite the value on FanDuel. The stacks board bears that out. Tatis, superstar, 381, 449, 548. Mentioned at the very start of his first game that he was talking about running again this season, and he's got 5 stolen bases on the board already. Pair of home runs, excellent start to his season from a superstar caliber player. 11.81 in the home run model. Fire up your Fernando Tatis shares against the lefty. Arraez, just a hit tool guy. We know him very well. He'll compete for a batting title. Low strikeout, but all he does is put light bat on ball. Needs a lot of help from his friends. Continue to not really understand the Tatis ahead of Arraez configuration they're going with here. Manny Machado, 51.4% hard hits in his limited batted ball events so far this year. Low strikeout, medium walk rate, still a lot of pop there. 333, 378, 452 start, creating runs. Doing Manny Machado things outside of hasn't hit a home run yet. 9.17 in your home run model today. There's upside there against the lefty. Bogey, 4,200, 30,000. Cheap. Fills both middle infield spots on FanDuel, just shortstop on DraftKings, but that's probably where you want him. 364 on bases, good to start. He's stolen 3 bases. Limited otherwise so far, but I like the bat to come around a little bit. Fully healthy by all accounts. He's been struggling with, a wrist injury, right, over the last couple seasons. By and large, or by everything they're saying about him, he's healthy. So I expect a lot. 44.8% hard hits is encouraging to start the year. Jackson Merrill, star, great rookie campaign. 3 home runs on the board already this year. 378, 415, 676 if this year's numbers mean anything to you, which they shouldn't. Deadman price Julie Gurriel is at least interesting. I don't expect there to be much power there, but I would think he's going to be at least capable of drawing walks, getting on base, creating runs, maybe showing a little bit of hit tool and plate discipline. So far, over 15 plate appearances, that hasn't been there at all. But I think we need to give him a little time to kind of warm back up to Major League pitching. I maintain that Julie Gurriel would have been a borderline Hall of Famer had he played an entire career in the majors. Talked about it before. He didn't arrive here till he was like 31, 32. Lost a lot of years to that stupid Cuba embargo. He was 32 his rookie year, 2016 with the Astros. Dude could hit, though. 2022, he dipped down to 240s and has been lurking down there to kind of drag the career numbers down. But even with 3 seasons in the 240s with limited on base, career numbers are still 279, 326, 436 with a 107 WRC+. 98 homers, but he had a season of 31. Back in 2019. Super low strikeout. Tons of quality bat on ball. Guy was good. Guy was very, very good. Note that I didn't say Hall of Famer. I said borderline. Because the power would be the big question mark there. What did his true power look like? Jake Cronenworth, Brandon Lockridge, and Martin Maldonado. Cronenworth, very playable at 39 at second base. 2,800, I would probably plug him at second base on FanDuel as well. Off to an okay start. We saw a good start from him last season that kind of tapered off and was just okay. But he's always, at worst, just okay. So that makes him playable if you're stacking this team. He's not like a one-off. He's not a high-priority bat in the grand sense of things. But in this lineup, he's a quality, alternative fifth man in. It's probably your sixth or seventh. Probably your sixth. Lockridge at 23-24, a little bit of speed, one stolen base on the season so far. And then Martin Maldonado has one odd duck home run on the board already. We'll get those from time to time. He only did it 4 times last year over 147 plate appearances, 15 times back in 2023 over 407. That's what you get on Maldonado. It's a lot of zeros, and then once, twice a month, he'll pop up for a home run that'll bend the slate but not break it. Burgo, North Carolina in the chat. What's going on, eh? Good to see you, bud. Welcome, welcome. We're tail end of the show, but I'm glad you made it. Easy to rewind, catch up, listen on 2x speed. But that kind of wraps us, guys. That is your slate. Let me pull up the pitching board real quick. Let's take one final glance at it as we tend to do. Love those two options. Willing to pay any price for both of those options in these matchups, and this is a ludicrously cheap price. Just play Framber Valdez shares. Chris Sale, Zach Wheeler. You can play either one of those guys. They're both in difficult matchups. I prefer the setup for Wheeler going up against the Braves than I do for Chris Sale going up against the Phillies. Sale is the higher strikeout pitcher between the two, but the Braves are the higher strikeout lineup. Sale projects marginally better because of that strikeout upside as an individual, but I actually like the Wheeler spot better. Love the Cole Ragans spot at just 81. Really intrigued by the idea of pairing these two on DraftKings for like a medium price and get 2 SP1s. Really think that's in play. Just depends on what you can stack with it. I haven't actually explored that. But Ragans, Castillo, Pablo Lopez, Freddie Peralta, to me at least. I'll even throw Lodolo into that mix and Shane Baz. There is a good mid-board here. If you're the type to skip expensive pitching and try and get cheap while also differentiating your starting pitchers, that is a very effective group of pitchers priced a little bit low across the board. Very low to a little bit low. Like even at Coors Field, I consider that 78 for Freddie Peralta a little bit low. That ought to be 82 on a day where we're pricing Cole Ragans at 81 against Minnesota. Maybe not, but that ought to be a little bit higher for Freddie's upside. Lodolo with some Ks on the board there at 82. Again, needs to find his talent. Hasn't flashed at the first 2 games. No reason to believe it won't show up. Baz, as we talked about, pushing power in the direction of the Angels. Mike Trout, home run pick of the day today. Angels maybe a little sneaky. I like the idea of some sneaky Angels and some sneaky Texas Rangers today. But it's like a 3-2 situation, I think, with Baz. Every 3 Angel stacks, I want 2 Baz shares, something like that. 86 on DraftKings, more playable than 96 on FanDuel. A little concerned about him at that price, but very, very real strikeout upside. And then it kind of falls off. I don't really love Charlie against Arizona. I do think he's loosely playable at that 67. I would play Landon Roop for a few shares at 73 on DraftKings. He's intriguing. Same thing with Jeffrey Springs at 75, but I wouldn't get carried away with either one of these guys. Don't know about him yet, and not a ton of confidence in the strikeout upside being there for Springs today. Kelly, Tyon, Corbin, Hendricks, and Freeland, just kind of hard nose. The most playable options are Kelly and Tyon, and as I said, I would take $6,200 Tyon against Texas with the way that Vegas is seeing Texas today over $6,700 Charlie Morton, despite Charlie projecting slightly better and being the better strikeout pitcher. I'll just take Vegas's advice and think that maybe this isn't the Texas day, but I'm very much intrigued by those Texas bats as stated against Jamison Tyon. These guys, I just don't see any reason to even consider or put them on the board to talk about at all. One last look at the home run model, which, again, you do get these numbers for every hitter in every lineup. To do with what you will, you can optimize by those numbers if you want to. I've done that before. At worst, it's something really good to work into like a sorting tool. I like doing that. But there's your power. A lot of obvious guys up toward the top, but again, just look at the power flashing for Texas. I really am interested in that spot with nobody going there. And really the only thing working against them is the cold night in Wrigley. We've seen teams dramatically overcome that before when facing a pitcher like Jamison Tynan. When facing Jamison Tynan himself, in fact. Love the power upside that the Rangers are showing. Just need to string together some sequencing and make it all come together. But I think that's an interesting low-owned spot tonight. With that in mind, you guys, it is 3:20. I still have to project 10 NBA games, 10 NHL games, and get that up on the site in the next couple hours for you guys. So check out rotoscouts.com. Thank you guys so much for hanging out every day. This is great. I enjoy the hell out of doing this, so hopefully you guys get a lot out of this show. Really appreciate all the subscriptions at the site. Everybody who's subscribed or given a thumbs up. I love the comments you guys drop on a lot of shows. There's a couple ridiculous ones. There was one, I think I brought it up on the show the other day. Somebody jumped into the comments and said, do we really need to stream of consciousness our way through the entire slate, game by game, player by player? I was like, yes, we do. That is what this show is. If you want something tight and efficient that gets you in and out in a half hour and just tells you the very surface stuff, there's plenty of shows for that too. But you guys absolutely rock. I think most of you guys know what you're getting over here. So hopefully you appreciate, not hopefully you appreciate it. I would never say something like that. Hopefully it works well for you and you get a lot out of it. Good luck out there tonight. Somebody go win something. Share a screenshot of it when you do. Love the winners. Congrats, by the way. There were only a few people here when I congratulated the winners from last night. One last time. Logan Grew on a $54 worth of entry fees over 4 entries. Took down $1,300 on FanDuel. That was with a Hunter Green, Padres, and Orioles stack with a Tawa one-off. And then Tall Tale more than doubled up his $25 on a DK entry. Just one entry. Took $60 away from his $25 entry and posted the screenshot. Small wins, large wins, it doesn't matter, guys. Wins are wins. I love seeing them, so post them in the Discord. Let me see if the Discord will let me link it. Yesterday it wouldn't let me paste this link. Nope. I don't understand why. Maybe if I paste it there and then copy it from here as a new source. Let's see if this works. Huzzah. There's the link to Discord. Discord is free to all. Always free. Hop in there. Stir the pot. Ask questions. Whatever you want. But come one, come all. Discord's always free. And the site, access to everything is under $1 a day. So check it out. Good luck out there. Go win something. We'll see you tomorrow for more of this. Later, gang.